We have a gavel. That's fun. Good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday, September 26th, and this is the time and place for the regularly scheduled Nevada Gaming Commission meeting for the month of September. Would you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. For those of you who are extra observant, you'll notice that we are 3 today, not 5, but we are properly quorumed. But Chair Tagliati and Commissioner Marcantonis have long held obligations that they're attending to, and we'll mark them excused and missed. And congratulations to all of you here. You found where the meeting is. I think for the first time in decades, people are actually reading the top of the monthly agenda to see where the heck we're meeting. So good on you. And, maybe we'll be joined by others shortly when they realize that we keep moving around. But hopefully we'll have a permanent space soon. I'm looking at you, Chair Hendrick, when we get these things finalized. But I appreciate the patience of everyone as we, finally get moved in and settled in. And that being said, I want to say thank you to the State Contractors Board for harboring us today. I didn't know the state of Nevada had so many meeting spaces and conference rooms, but now I do. But it's beautiful. And again, I hope it fits everyone or when they straggle in. But I want to say thank you to the Contractors Board and for their hospitality. Madam Secretary, has our agenda been posted in accordance with the open meeting law?
Yes, it has.
At this time, I'd like to remind anyone coming to the podium to speak, we ask that you speak directly into the microphone and speak as clearly as possible, as this meeting is being transmitted electronically and being transcribed. Madam Secretary, let's proceed with our first agenda item, public comments.
This item is placed on the agenda to give the public an opportunity to comment on gaming-related matters.
And anyone who wishes to address the commission may do so at this time. You're welcome to come forward. Matters brought to our attention during public comment cannot be acted upon, but we're happy to hear comments of the public as well as any of my fellow commissioners. Comments by all will be limited to 3 minutes as a reasonable time, place, and manner restriction. If any of my fellow commissioners or I myself ask questions of the public, the time needed to address the questions will not be held against those time constraints. If you have any handouts or copies of your comments to provide, please do not approach the dais with them. An enforcement agent will come grab them from you. I will first go to Carson City. Anyone wishing to make comment in Carson City, please come forward to the podium. And I cannot, there's my screen. I see Mr. Scher. Mr. Scher, you look all alone. And you don't have any public comment. Then we're good. We'll move here to Las Vegas. If you have public comment, again, please come forward and state your name for the record and please spell your name as well. That looks like a good spot.
My name is Glenn Hunsucker, Hunsucker. My comment today is about Regulation 12.100, other instrumentalities. This regulation is the most unusual, vague, and far-reaching regulation of all the regulations. It is hidden in the regulation about chips and tokens, but it is not a chip or token. The term instrumentality is defined as anything used in gaming. It allows the chairman alone to approve the design and all specifications used in this instrumentality without written documentation of any kind. In other words, this one regulation bypasses all other regulations in the entire book of regulations. The term instrumentalities with which gaming is conducted could mean anything and everything. The one instrumentality that I think it is referring to are the so-called shuffling machines used in blackjack, baccarat, and other card games. These so-called shuffling machines can arrange the cards in any sequence they choose. Their own internet marketing use this as a selling tool. Some of these machines have over 100 different shuffling settings. Since there is only one way to randomly shuffle a deck of cards, the other 99 are apparently for arranging the cards. What other explanation is there? By observing the distribution of the cards as they are dealt, it is obvious that they are not random. A previous chairman approved these instrumentalities, but we don't know who because there is no written documentation. Today's chairman can withdraw this approval, which I hope you will do. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us, and thank you for providing an outline of your remarks. Additional public comment, please. Again, introduce yourselves and spell your names, please.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Excuse me. My name is Dan Serwinowski, Serwinowski. I am a banquet server at Red Rock Spa Resort Hotel. I started working there back in December 2006, about 6 months after they had opened. I started out as an on-call banquet server and enjoyed it so much that I decided to move my way up from on-call to part-time to full-time A-list. This was where I wanted to retire. I always had aspirations of Red Rock becoming a union hotel, so we could have fair wages, free medical care, and a pension and other benefits. I decided to become a Red Rock committee leader with the Culinary Union to start organizing, which was our right. With all of our hard work, including several picket lines and dealing with union busters, we were ready to vote to unionize. We had secured an election date of December 19th, 2019. Management told employees and used a flyer stating that they were having a mandatory captive audience meeting on December 16th and 17th, 2 days before the election, to vote yes or no on the union. It was a mandatory meeting where, according to the flyer, we were a captive audience. I attended one of these meetings. The company made announcements and promises about benefits. Top managers said that the benefits were only guaranteed if we rejected the union. Right away, one thought I had was, how could they be doing this to us right before the election? I ask you today to please examine the company flyer and ask the company about it. Why would they hold mandatory captive audience meetings days before an election? I also have to say that the period of time between the mandatory captive audience meeting and today has been very stressful and sometimes depressing at times. From 2006 to 2020, I served Red Rock with loyalty and dedication. I worked my way up to the A-list. I had hopes and real plans and real savings for building a home. But in 2020, during COVID, management chose to separate me from the company, and then I came back as an on-call server. I wish the company had not held mandatory captive audience meetings for its own employees. And again, I ask you to examine the flyer and ask the company about it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for being present with us today. And please, you're welcome to hand that off.
Great.
So we have a copy of your statement. Sir?
Good morning, Zach Popple for the Culinary Union, POPPEL. On July 29th, Council for Station Casinos filed a statement of issues to be raised in the U.S. Court of Appeals DC Circuit. The filing shows Station Casinos Company is rolling the dice in federal courts to see if they can fundamentally restructure labor law enforcement in our country by challenging the constitutionality of the National Labor Relations Board. According to Station Casinos, the system of federal law enforcement and its judges that hold station casinos accountable somehow violates their rights under the Constitution. The claim about the Constitution comes from a gaming company that violates federal labor law over and over again. In fact, the size and weight of station casinos violations have slowed down the NLRB and prevented a final legal reckoning in one of the largest labor law enforcement actions in U.S. history. We have a copy of the July 29th filing to turn in along with these comments. We're concerned about what station casinos challenge to the constitutionality of labor law enforcement means for Nevadans and the gaming industry. There is a law enforcement system that preserves the fundamental freedom to join a union. And now you have a large gaming employer arguing in federal court that the law enforcement system that preserves the fundamental freedom to join a union should not exist as it does at present. Essential to that federal law enforcement system is telling the truth and nothing but the truth in law enforcement proceedings. And we again must restate the fact that the top of the NLRB found that the top executives at station casinos testified under oath in federal proceedings with, quote, such an unusual degree of evasiveness and wholly implausible forgetfulness that a judge was fully warranted in discounting their testimony as generally unreliable, except where independently corroborated or against the respondent's interest. That question was whether the chief operating officer, the chief legal officer, the chief financial officer, the top labor strategy executive could provide credible testimony about significant matters related to labor strategy and how they discussed that strategy with the owners of the company. In law enforcement proceedings, gaming company executives need to give credible, truthful testimony about significant company strategies and need to give credible, truthful testimony about how owners engage in those strategies. No gaming company or its executives should have a problem with the truth or telling it. There are hearings next week in this labor law trial against station casinos, and we again urge the commission to assign a staff person to monitor the proceedings in person, particularly when a gaming license holder is on the stand. Thank you.
And thank you, sir, for your comments. Is there additional public comment here in Las Vegas? I'm seeing none. Public comment section is closed. Now let's proceed. Madam Secretary, the next item on our agenda is the approval of the prior month's disposition, please.
Pursuant to NRS 241.035, this item is the consideration of the approval of the Nevada Gaming Commission disposition for August 2024.
Thank you. Each of the commissioners have had a chance to review the disposition. If there are no questions, a motion would be in order.
Move for the approval of the agenda, or the agenda from the minutes from the prior meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Silver. Any questions on the motion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion's carried. Madam Secretary, please read in the restricted consent items, please.
Your items on the restricted consent agenda this morning are 7 and 8. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda.
Any questions? Comments? No, then a motion is in order.
Vice Chair, I'm happy to move for approval of restricted items number 2, 7, and 8 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and is recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Thank you. Any questions, comments on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion's carried. Moving forward, Madam Secretary, please read in the new game consent item.
Your item on the new game consent agenda this morning is item 1. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Questions? None. Motion, please.
I move for approval of new game 1. It's Knockout 52 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and is recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Thank you, Commissioner. Questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Moving on. Madam Secretary, I believe that brings us to our non-restricted agenda items held out for discussion. Would you please read in non-restricted number 1?
Non-restricted number 1 are the applications of Sega Sammy Holdings, Inc. for an acquisition of control of GAN Limited, amendment to their order of registration. It is also the application of Sega Sammy Creation, Inc. for finding of suitability as sole shareholder of GAN Limited. You also have the applications of GAN Limited for deregistration as a publicly traded corporation, for registration as an intermediary company, for licensure as sole shareholder of GAN UK Limited, and to add, remove, or modify conditions to license. It is also the applications of GAN UK Limited for registration as an intermediary company, for licensure as sole shareholder of GAN Nevada Inc., for licensure as a manufacturer, and to add, remove, or modify conditions to license. You also have the applications of GAN Nevada Inc. for licensure as a manufacturer and distributor, for licensure as an information service, and to add, remove, or modify conditions to license. Lastly, you have the applications of Koichi Fukuzawa, Naoki Kamita, and David Ross for finding of suitability and/or licensure as an officer and/or director as noted on the agenda. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval, and I believe we have a disclosure on this item.
We do have a disclosure. It's your acting chairman today. I wish to disclose that Mr. Scherer has previously served as my personal attorney in various matters, but I conclude that the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in my situation would not be materially affected by this relationship. I therefore intend to fully participate in the consideration of this matter. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Kerlicki, Commissioners, Madam Secretary. For the record, I am Erica Okerberg. I am appearing today on behalf of Sega Sammy for the GAN transaction. Here with me today is Mr. Kamita. We also have Mr. Fukuzawa appearing via Zoom, and in Carson City, we have Mr. Shearer. If there are any questions for GAN, we also have in the audience Seamus McGill and Sylvia Tiscareno. We have distributed a PowerPoint deck to the Commission, which we ask to be treated as confidential and not be made part of the public record. We know the Commission has had an opportunity to watch the board meeting or review the transcript. I gave a presentation regarding the transaction and the applications. I didn't plan to restate that today. Of course, I'm happy to answer any questions. What we would plan to do is go through at a high level some of the slides that we wanted to highlight for you in the presentation, and then, of course, answer any questions that you might have.
Ms. Zuckerberg, that is a splendid plan. Please
Wonderful.
proceed.
Thank you very much. In that case, I will turn it to Mr. Kamita, and he will walk you through the slide deck. Thank you. Yes.
Oh, they have it.
Good morning, Mr.
Hi, good morning, Commissioners. Thank you very much for your time. Let me just go through the presentation quickly. So you have the deck on your hand right now? Yes. Thank you very much. So I'd like to just quickly go through, starting from page 3 very quickly. Firstly, I just wanted to mention that we have, Sega Sammy Group has 95 subsidiaries. And like until last year, we used to be just one of 95. But now we are focusing on gaming segment in the gaming business. We established the gaming segment from this April. So I will talk through later, but Sega Sammy Creation is going to be one of the top 3 of the Sega Sammy Group. That's what I wanted to mention. Just move on to the next page, please. I just want to touch base on Mr. Fukuzawa here. He's here as well. Mr. Fukuzawa is working for CFO, but he's basically just the next to Satomi family. And then he's leading gaming segment as well. So I just wanted to mention that as well. And next one, as you see, we have big 3 pillars under Sega Sammy Group. Again, we have 95 subsidiaries, but those are basically categorized among these 3 categories. And Sega, as you know, it's like a big game company. Sammy is pachinko patsu company. Now they are doing very, very well in Japan. I'll talk about it in finance sector as well. And the gaming business, this is new segment we have established from this April. And then Sega Sammy Creation is going to be, leading company for this gaming business from now on. Let me just, let's move on to the next page, please. Let me just touch base on the gaming business of Sega Sammy Group. As you see, we have many casino machines, and then I'm very happy to say this, that we have very, very nice reputation of our machine now. So we get all the top 1, top 2, top 3 of our titles in cabinet on the iLives report. So I'm very, very happy about our progress and growth right now. Of course, iGaming, sports betting, Coolbet, GAN, and also we signed a contract with Stake Logic as well. So we have some companies. It's going to be in the future. They're going to be under Sigasami Creation as well. I just wanted to mention one more thing. Paradise City. This is a casino, land-based casino in Incheon, Korea. And it's very close to the airport. It's very gorgeous hotel. We own 45% of the Paradise City. Please move on to the next page. This is our very quick org chart. As you see, Sigasami Creation is Japan is going to be the core company of gaming segment. And then as you see, Sega and Sami, and you see Sigasami Creation here. Koichi Fukazawa is leading as the chairman, and then probably CEO, and myself, president, CEO, right now. And then we are going to talk about, other appointment and everything, but I will lead the gaming segment with Mr. Fukazawa from now on. And then as you see, under Sigasami Creation Japan, we have Sigasami Creation USA, and then Coolbet in GAN, Silverback, and Paradise City. That's what we are planning to do after closing. But until closing, we don't do anything, but that's what we are aiming for. So, yes. We will touch based on the next page, rationale for seeking to acquire GAN. I kind of repeatedly mentioned about this in the top part. We are establishing this third pillar business, a core business of Sigasami Group, and then that's the gaming business. And we like to aim for setting up the big business model and the business especially in the US market as an omni-channel solution provider. It means that we like to work with land-based casinos, especially in the US, and then we like to basically provide all the digital solution to these land-based casinos. I would like to stress that, we don't want to be enemy of land-based casinos. It's totally opposite. Sega is very known for good online operation and digital operation, but we like to be partner with land-based casinos so that we can grow the gaming business, including online gaming business with land operators together.
Mr. Kamada, could you slow down just a tad? Once you start out fine, but then you get going really fast, and I have the same problem. So I'm just
sorry about that. Yes,
He's excited.
Thank you. So, am I okay so far, though? Yeah, I don't need to repeat anything. Sorry, I didn't know I can speak that fast, to be honest. Okay, the next one is basically our future plan for synergy. What we can provide is Sigasami has whole intellectual properties. We are not going to use Sonic at this moment for now. I don't think for the future too, but there are so many IPs we can bring into a gaming business. And also content co-development means we have multiple good hit titles on slot machines. So that's what we like to bring to online, but also the land-based. And also, as I mentioned, we like to create new business with GAN and Coolbet together from now on. So that's what we are talking about here. Just to move on to the next page. This is just a library of our characters and everything, and we will skip to page 12. Yes, we would like to just talk about financial foundation. Of course, before, NGCB and NGC were a little bit concerned about GAN's financial position and everything, but we believe that we can solve that. As you see in the graph here, we are bringing more cash and everything. As I mentioned, Sami is big pachinko pass-through manufacturer in Japan, and they are doing even better than before. And then last fiscal year is basically one of the good hit year for us, which means that we have more cash. So even after acquisition of GAN and Coolbet and Stake Logic, we'll have still lots of cash, abundant cash in our hands, so that whenever we need to support GAN, we can do that. We have very strong confidence on that. So let's move on to the next page.
Mr. Kamita, can I ask you a question on that
yes,
page? And
please.
again, I know this is confidential, so I'll ask it broadly, so not to get us both into trouble. And your company has a splendid balance sheet, and it's nice to have those kind of ratios. It's good to be your company. So congratulations on that. And
Thank you very
and
much.
I'm being a little bit remiss, and I just want to make sure I welcome Mr. Fukuzawa. I know it's probably a very strange time of day to be meeting with us, but I just recognize you as Mr. Kamita is doing this. The acquisition price, the market cap of GAN is obviously lower than the price. Is that differential primarily the note that is being paid by you and you're doing as an intercompany loan? Is that the difference, the debt that you're acquiring as well?
Yeah, I believe it's coming more from our understanding of the value of the company for the future. I think we can add more value by working together. So that's the reason, I believe. So I don't know if I'm answering this.
Well, this is perhaps the PIK loan, and I know there was extensive negotiations as any corporate acquisition and public company, but the price that you've settled on, and there was a broad range, and you're actually, I think, coming in at a higher point on that range. But I'm just assuming that spread, which is significant, is primarily the PIK loan. If you're suggesting it's other things, can you generally discuss that, or would it be the PIK? Was it Blue Point? Beach Point. Beach
Yeah.
Point.
Chair Krolicki, that's my understanding, yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kamita, please proceed. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Okay. All right.
I am impressed that a non-native English speaker is speaking quickly, but you're doing great.
And speaking too fast. Sorry about that.
No, you're doing great.
I didn't know I could do that. But anyway, so so I believe this is going to be the last page. You know, I repeat the same thing. You see the big cash and liquidity at hand is increasing a lot as well. So that you understand, I hope you understand that we have strong capability to support GAN from now on. So I know that you have some concerns about GAN's finance, but we came here to support GAN fully from financing side as well. So,
and that's why this is such a compelling presentation for all involved. Anything else you'd like to make in terms of an affirmative presentation?
Nope, I think that's it.
No. So why don't we do it as we always do? We'll keep our questions up front to the transaction itself and those approvals, and then we'll speak about you and Mr. Fukuzawa quickly. But again, both of you are eminently qualified, do have some questions, but let's, any other comments to make on the transaction itself, the various items? I see no. Mr. Scherer, do you have anything from the GAN side regarding this matter?
Thank you, Acting Chairman Krolicki. For the record, Scott Scherer, Hyatt Farber Schreck, appearing today.
Mr. Scherer, hang on one second. We're getting a nice echo. And I also need to give a shout out to the technology people. One of the things about moving around is we have different technologies at every place we go. So I special shout out to our colleagues at the Gaming Control Board, and Scott, thank you for doing that. So Mr. Scherer, I'm going to let you try again and see if we got rid of that echo.
Thank you, Acting Chairman Krolicki. For the record, Scott Scherer of Hyatt Farber Schreck, appearing today.
Mr. Scherer, I'm sorry, we did not get rid of it. Is there anything we can do? Is there another microphone on down there, perhaps?
There are two microphones on the podium. Let me see if I can turn one off.
Well, if you turn that one off, it'll turn off both.
Okay.
So I think what we can
I'm sorry. Thank you for your patience.
So here.
I'm sure everything you say, Mr. Scherer, is riveting. So we want to make sure we don't miss anything.
How's that now?
No. All right. I'm going to try to listen really hard Perhaps speak slowly, and we should be able to get the gist.
Thank you, Acting Chairman Krolicki, members of the commission, Madam Secretary. For the record, Scott Scherer. With regard to GAN, I don't know if this is the appropriate time to address the order of deregistration, but we have had an opportunity to review that order and find it to be in proper form. And that would be draft number 1, dated August 14th, 2024.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We did get most of that, but that is hard. And just
Sorry,
going
Mr.
forward,
Chair, could he repeat the date? It was draft number 1 dated August.
14,
Okay, thank you.
2024.
And I think just because we're talking orders of registration, I should note for the record that for Sega Sammy, we reviewed draft number 2 dated September 10th, and we believe that's in proper form.
just to be clear, the second revised order of registration, draft number 2, in the order of deregistration, eventually, draft number 1.
Yes, that's right.
And just as we go forward, I don't know if we expect further testimony from Carson City, but if we can perhaps figure out a way to, even if they we mute that and get them on a telephone line or something, that would be helpful. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your patience. Commissioners, questions for our guests today? Is Okerberg's had it easy so far? Any questions?
I do. Mr. Plata. Sorry about that. You were indicating, obviously, the strength of the balance sheet for Sega Sammy. You've, I assume, have done your due diligence on GAN and understand the liquidity concerns.
Yes. Yes, of course.
Our materials indicated in part that Sega Sammy was not going to make additional investment. How are you going to help address their liquidity needs?
Okay. So firstly, of course, as he mentioned, we basically purchased the loan from Beach Point, so we are the lender.
Okay.
As well. So in a sense, of course, if there is cash flow issue at this moment, according to our due diligence and the business planning, we don't need to add any additional investment or additional cash or anything.
Okay.
But if something happens, of course, we are ready to, make sure that GAN is going to be financially stable.
Okay.
And also other parties, of course, we are going to get into a U.S. market more aggressively. So that in a sense, in positive way, if we need more cash, then we probably do more additional investment for that.
Okay.
Yes.
I didn't want to get into that too deeply because the conflict concerned me just because, clearly their liquidity issues are very apparent at this point, and I want to make sure that we're not setting them up to fail. With respect to the sports platform, what's the status of that, and what is the problem in getting it to final approval?
Yes, I think for that question, we might actually ask Mr. Shearer and/or a representative of GAN to provide an update.
Yes, hello, this is Rob Lekites. Last name Lekites. I'm the Senior Vice President of Sports Betting at GAN. I can answer any questions you have. What did you have anything specific, or just as a kind of summary of where things are?
Yeah. Good morning, Mr. Lekites. We're having a similar issue with you that we had with Mr. Scherer. And I don't know if we're somewhat blocked on the screen, but you're participating electronically, virtually, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Well, as we advised, well, Mr. Scherer, or because of the technology issues, sir, would you be prepared to make comments so we can hear it more easily? I put you on the spot.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Seamus McGill. I'm CEO of the company. Rob Lekites is our Senior Vice President of Sports Betting. He's actually in Lisbon right now at a sports betting conference, so that's where he's calling in from. Basically, we are on the 5-yard line, if you like, with with our trial with Nevada Gaming Control Board. And we've just done a final submission. We have submitted the software to GLI. We expect full approval here in the next, we expect an approval from Nevada probably by late November, early December for full approval of the product. We are very actively working with stations and with Nevada Gaming Control Board, and everything appears to be going very well. We had some issues with regard to reporting, but we've resolved those issues and things are going quite well right now.
Is the technology a condition for closing the transaction?
No.
I was going to say, because I think you're targeting November.
November, December timeframe is what we believe at this stage.
For the closing, I'm sorry. Are we talking about the closing or the approval of the platform?
I was asking about the
approval of the
closing of the
platform,
transaction.
late November, early December for the final approval of the platform. Closing is subject to some regulatory issues, but we are very close. We are within.
I just recall being here about a year ago this time. You know, you thought that you were very close at that point, and I know you've received an extension since then that
Yes.
expires in December, early December. So I was just getting a little concerned on the timing. If you were getting, I didn't know what the problems with the reporting was, but if, you know, I wanted an update on whether you're getting those worked out.
Yes, we are. We pretty much have it all worked out right now. We're just going through the process with Nevada Gaming Control Board and with GLI. We've submitted the final product to GLI about a week ago.
Okay. Do you get certified with GameStack in New Jersey? I saw that was pending as well.
The GameStack in New Jersey has been approved quite some time ago.
Oh, okay.
But we're talking about GameStack 2, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, and then my other question for Ms. Okerberg, more than likely, is there was discussions in our material about renewals of the limited license and such, and that the way it was explained was confusing to me. And I sat through RUMP and I watched the Gaming Control Board hearing, but I still wasn't clear on what it is that you're thinking you're renewing, or if it's just an application for basically a license in advance of the limited expiring next year.
That's right. We've applied for new licenses now in anticipation of the licenses expiring in the coming year. The reason we did that now was because we thought it was more efficient to combine everything together. We also thought that the acquisition resolved the concerns that the board and commission had raised. So now is a time that was ripe to apply for those new licenses for GAN. So those are on the agenda before you.
Okay. What about the, it does talk about regulatory approvals in both Connecticut and also West Virginia that were pending this month. Did those come through?
They are still pending, actually. So we're waiting for 7 more approvals, which are all anticipated to occur this year.
In our reports, it said September on those 2.
Those we're now looking at October.
Okay.
Thank you.
Additional questions by my commissioners?
I just have a final question. I didn't know if Commissioner Silver had anything more. I had a final question with respect to the conditions that you're looking to modify or remove. Can you go through those briefly?
Sure. So the first condition relates to applications for certain individuals, which includes the CEO and the CFO. We believe that in the first instance, the conditions have actually been met by the applications of Mr. Kamita as well as Mr. Chang. But in any event, because that has been met and we think the concerns that were resolved from the board and commission meeting, we believe it's appropriate to remove that condition from the license. And then the second condition related to the limitation of the licenses.
Okay. I don't know that the limitation is a condition, but as part of my confusion is you're seeking to remove a condition that was imposed on the limited license, but that obviously that would expire by its own term next year. So are you just asking that that condition not be included in the new license?
That is correct. Yes.
that the intersection of those was just the way they were presented was very confusing.
I apologize for that.
But that's because the transaction is the cure of that situation.
That's
and the
exactly
conditions
right.
That were imposed.
Right. Okay.
And Mr. McGill wearing 20 different hats currently.
That is correct.
It's noted.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course.
I have just a couple. We've touched most of them. And again, appreciate your patience and everyone stepping up here. You gave you were asked at the Gaming Control Board about assessment of the industry. So I won't ask you to do that again, but again, it was very compelling and it's exciting. What is this? Do we know the status of the Gaming Control Board, the technology division? Or do you have an understanding where that might be in terms of the approval? I know it's at GLI as well for GameStack too, but do we have an idea?
We currently anticipate final approval by about, give me on the dates. Rob probably knows the dates better than I.
December 5th is the date that we are targeting the approval by the technology and audit divisions.
And I think you said December 5th.
I was going to say, I thought.
5, yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
December.
That's helpful. And Mr. McGill, as I'm looking at you, but it's a semi-SIGA question. The 600 employees you've got scattered around the planet. It's the intention, that's what makes GAN great and attractive to you, but I understand it's imperfect, but your anticipation is to essentially retain most of, if not all of those people as you move forward with this acquisition. Is that correct?
Chair Krolicki, that's correct. The company plans to do as they normally would do after a transaction and evaluation, and obviously work with the employees who want to stay. There's usually some turnover in a transaction like this, but they were really excited about GAN and all the expertise that the employees have and are really interested in keeping the majority of them to the extent they want to stay.
And I think you're in 30 plus jurisdictions. So you're all busy, but the Nevada jurisdiction in particular, they're expected to have no changes here, correct?
Not at this time.
Good. This is way out there, but I'm curious because I live it in my other life. There's mention of CFIUS being part of this acquisition, and I'm not sure what's triggering it. I mean, obviously it's a foreign acquisition of domestic assets, but why is CFIUS engaged, or has that process been concluded?
I will let the general counsel answer that question.
And you didn't think you'd be working today. Please introduce yourself.
Good morning, Sylvia Tiscareño, Chief Legal Officer for GAN. So yes, it was tied to the foreign investment component of a Japanese entity, but we have approval, so that is not an issue right now. The only pending matters to meet our conditions under the agreement are the remaining gaming approvals.
You have approval, or approval that it's not subject to CFIUS?
Correct, approval that there are no issues, so we had the green light to move forward with the deal.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'm still going through some notes here. Mr. Comita, you mentioned the conversations about investments. I think you mentioned during the Gaming Control Board meeting that your company has about $700 million investment budget. So that also can be used as working capital for GAN if it's necessary. I know you've absorbed the loan, but there's plenty of capital to make sure that those needs are met, correct?
Yeah, I apologize that I didn't mention that, but yes, we have the $700 million budget, so that, you're totally correct.
Okay, it's just to get it on the record too, so I appreciate that. I don't have any further questions about the company, so perhaps we can transition into Mr. Comita and Mr. Fukuzawa quickly. Thank you for that. Mr. Rainey, do you have any questions about the individuals, directors? Commissioner Silver?
I do not.
Mr. Comita, you were last licensed in February, I think. So you're still a brand new face for us, but we know you pretty well. And you haven't done a lot of things in between except move a transaction. So good on you. And Mr. Fukuzawa, I don't know what time it is in Japan. My Wi-Fi is not working here, so but I suspect it's not very convenient. Thank you for being with us today. And I believe you were last approved by Nevada and the Gaming Commission in 2017. But would you care to make a few comments about the industry and this transaction while we have you, please?
Let me just translate quickly. 2017年にライセンスを取ってから、その後なんかアップデート、それから今回の投資に関して何かコメントがあればいただけませんかということです。
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for your time today. My name is Coach Fukazawa from Sega Sammy Holdings. 聞こえてますか？
聞こえてますが、
Can you catch my voice?
Yeah, go ahead. Yes, you can. But ちょっとゆっくりお話できると。はい。エコーが。
We do believe a solution would be if everybody in this room muted their microphones. It should eliminate the echo that we hear.
はい、じゃあお願いします。もう一度でお願いします。
大丈夫かな？まあ、大体亀田が話してくれた通りなんですけど、これから3年間で、ヤンの買収の107ミリオンを含めて、330ミリオン USD を投資する計画をグループとしては持っているので、まあ、そういう意味では、ギャンのこれからの成長を十分支えるだけのバジェットはあるということをお伝えしたいと思います。
So, as he said, basically, I mentioned to you already, but for these 3 years, we have $700 million budget, including this again $100 million investment as well. So he wanted to make sure that and stress that we have enough budget to support GAN's business for the future.
Thank you, Mr. Kameda. And Mr. Fukuzawa, thank you for that. And congratulations on translating not only language, but technology latency issues. I was going to ask for the record, the view of the chairman on the state of online sports betting. You did it very well and extensively at the Gaming Control Board. So given this issue, I think the record of the Gaming Control Board does it well. So I will spare that. I actually have a question about Mr. Ross. I know he's excused today, but oh, you are here. Oh, we get to make you work. Any other questions for Mr. Commuter, Mr. Fukuzawa? I'm seeing none. Good morning, Mr. Ross. How are you? Your commute was shorter.
Yes, it was. Only about 10 minutes. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. David Ross, ROSS. Happy to answer any questions, and once again, privileged to be back in front of the commission.
There you go. The question was asked, but I just want a clarification. So you'll be an independent director.
Yes.
You do not know the committee assignments you will have. That'll be post-transaction when the board makes those determinations on which committees you'll sit. And
Yes, my understanding is mine was only for this period. And once the transaction happens, I've not entered into any discussions with Sega Sammy post-close. Mine is really just for the public company, GAN, today.
Okay. Well, there's an understood. You get, and I'm looking at board compensation again, just curious. So most are paid by RSUs, but you don't take it in equity, you take it in cash. Is there a reason for that?
Yes. So when I came in, it was post-transaction, and given the duration was unknown, Sega Sammy and the company just said, look, based on where we're at with this transaction, it's already been announced. We'll just turn yours into the same. It's all math, right, in terms of that. And so that's what they did. So I had no problem with that.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Of course.
People get up spontaneously, not knowing that they had to perform. I don't have any other questions at this time. Commissioners, if you're.
Good morning. Thank you for the presentation. Mr. Ross, I just noticed, in your background, you're exactly my age. You grew up here. How do I not know you? And what school did you go to? What high school? You went to UNLV exactly the same time as me. How What high school?
Thank you. Bonanza High School.
Okay,
And then
so
I-
Allison Brosda, you knew.
Okay,
I went to Clark,
beautiful.
right there.
There's only a few of us back then.
I know, that's why I'm
Yeah.
like,
And then undergrad and graduate from UNLV. And
I
then
saw
I
that from
recently,
UNLV. You know, and Robin Lobato,
yes,
obviously,
of course.
the whole group. Yeah,
Yes.
very close. The schools are very close. That's where we used to hang out. So I'm like, how do I not know this person? I look at everything that,
Working hard.
and I'm thinking it was such a small town then,
Yes.
that it's hard for me to believe I didn't know you. So, but I want to thank you for all you do, including the UNLV Foundation, of course, too, being a UNLV alum as well.
Thank you.
So thank you so
Been an
much.
honor. Thank you.
Is that a motion?
Well, no, he's a Bengal. I was a chair. So no.
Do we have a motion on restricted agenda, non-restricted agenda number 1?
Oh, go ahead.
I move for approval of non-restricted item number 1 is read into the record by Madam Secretary and is recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
You've heard the motion, and do we need to add anything to that?
I believe
second
you might
revised
want to
order
mention the
registration.
draft number 2 date, just to
Okay,
make sure.
and that's pursuant to the GAN order of registration dated August 14, 2024, and the Sega Sammy's second revised order registration dated September.
Ms. Okerberg's jumping to the.
Did I get it
If I
backwards?
could, yes. So we have the order of deregistration for GAN is the first draft, which is dated August 14th.
Okay.
And then the Sega Sammy draft is draft number 2 dated September 10th.
Okay, 2024. All right, and
And that is
I will
your
incorporate that into my motion. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, thank you. Takes a lot of people to make a motion. Questions on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? No. Motion's carried.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Good
Thank
luck.
you very much.
Thank you for being with us. And again, Mr. Fukuzawa, thank you for being with us in I think the middle of your morning.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I know it's very difficult to hear me, but I'd like to make one comment if you don't mind.
Please, Mr. Lakites, proceed.
I'd like to recognize the entire team that we've been working with very closely at the technology division. Their professionalism and guidance and support has been greatly appreciated, and they're a tremendous team there.
We heard you complimenting people, so that's always a good thing to hear, even if it's a little garbled, but we appreciate you putting yourself in there. And again, I know the effort the Gaming Control Board team has put in. There's a whole slew of folks who've been involved in this, and well done to all of you. And again, congratulations, Godspeed. All right. Madam Secretary, please read in non-restricted item number 2.
Non-restricted number 2 are the applications of Caesars Entertainment, Inc. membership interests as noted on the agenda and for an amendment to their order of registration. It is also the applications of Circus and Eldorado Joint Venture LLC for a transfer of interest as noted on the agenda, for licensure as a manufacturer and distributor, and to pledge membership interest as noted on the agenda. You also have the application of Eldorado Limited Liability Company for a transfer of interest as noted on the agenda. It is also the applications of Eldorado Holdco LLC for licensure as sole member of Circus and Eldorado Joint Venture. To merge Eldorado Resorts LLC into Circus and Eldorado Joint Venture LLC with Circus and Eldorado Joint Venture LLC as the surviving entity, and to pledge membership interest as noted on the agenda. You also have the applications of Tropicana Entertainment, Inc., Caesars Holding, Inc., Caesars Growth Partners, LLC, American Wagering, Inc., BW Subco, Caesars Resort Collection, LLC, CEOC, LLC, Caesars World, LLC, Caesars Palace, LLC, Caesars Nevada Newco, LLC, HTM Holding, LLC, Caesars Growth PH, LLC, Caesars Growth Quad, LLC, Caesars Growth Bally's LV, and Caesars Growth Cromwell, LLC to pledge membership interest as noted on the agenda. Lastly, it is also the applications of Digital Holdco, LLC, William Hill U.S. Holdco, Inc., and William Hill Nevada 1 to pledge equity securities as noted on the agenda. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Good morning, Mr. Hendricks, Mr. Burnett, and I think the entire McDonald Corrado gaming practice behind you. Congratulations on the longest introduction and 5 pages of application requests. I think we have a good sense of why we're here and why that was necessary. But I assume, Mr. Burnett, you're going to kick us off. And, again, we've all watched the fascinating recant of what happened or the description of how we got in this pickle. But delighted that everyone's worked together. And I do hope to hear from Mr. Hicks, who's made a special trip to discuss some of the early origins of some of the confusion that we've had. But Mr. Burnett, would you like to kick us off, please?
Well, Mr. Chairman, before you mentioned Mr. Hicks's name, I was going to just say we rest our case. But I'm sure Mr. Hicks
Traveled
is happy
far
to
away,
come
so
up and chat about anything that you would like. My name is A.G. Burnett with the law firm of McDonald Carano, as you indicated. Here with me is Mr. Bud Hicks and Greg Giordano, both partners of mine. And seated to my left is Mr. Jeff Hendricks. He's an SVP and Assistant General Counsel to Caesars Entertainment. And as Madam Secretary outlined, we have a very robust series of applications in front of you, most of which relate to some refinancing that was conducted by the company in regards to U.S. Bank National Association. That is a series of pledges that you see listed throughout the agenda. Also among the agenda requests are some requests for, of course, the amendment to the order of registration, some licenses, for example, as a manufacturer and distributor, in addition to some transfers of interest. As you indicated, we had a thorough discussion with the Gaming Control Board, and our thought would be to turn it over to you to see if you or the commissioners have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Burnett. Questions for him or Mr. Hendricks at this point? Commissioner Zerini.
I don't have any additional questions. I mean, I'm still a little puzzled as to how such a great company that, I mean, you've been a great community partner and you generally do things so seamlessly, how you allowed this to happen, just the mess with the entities.
Yeah, I'd be happy to speak to that. So, Bud will give some additional context here in a moment. For record, Jeff Hendricks, Senior Vice President, Assistant General Counsel for Caesars Entertainment. Pleasure to be in front of you this morning, so thank you for your time. This process kind of stemmed from a series of corporate refinancings that we undertook in order to continually improve our balance sheet after the merger between Eldorado Resorts and Caesars Entertainment. And through that process, we separately identified with board staff an issue relating to the licensure of certain subsidiaries that we consolidated in 2021 after we applied for and received approval to operate under a single gaming license for our 3 properties in Reno. So at in regards to that second application, we originally operated 3 distinctly licensed casinos that were at the time referred to as the Row in Reno. We applied for approval to operate those under a single license because they are contiguously connected by physical structure, and we operate them under a single management team. So it made a lot of business and operational sense to consolidate those licenses. At the time that we conducted that process, we were really dealing with several factors. One, the impact of the COVID pandemic and the unusual status that we were all working with at the time. Secondly, the closing of the acquisition of Caesars Entertainment Corporation right around that same time frame. And following those consolidations of the companies, we then attempted to eliminate certain entities that were no longer using gaming licenses following the approval to consolidate the licensure at the Row. So essentially there was enough factors in place, that when we went to the process of actually eliminating the entities that were no longer running licensed gaming operations, we kind of reached the issue that we're dealing with today to clean up that merger process. So through all of that, I think the short answer is that we thought that we had the necessary approvals in place to conduct the consolidation after receiving the approvals. but frankly, we didn't do a good enough job communicating our intentions there and making sure on the front and back end that those prior approvals were clear to all of our constituents, obviously, including the Nevada Gaming Control Board. So a lot of work went into that process. Ultimately, it's my job to make sure that our stakeholders know about those plans and that those plans are acceptable. And we didn't do a good enough job in that respect. So,
And that's the portion that you did in-house, right? You didn't involve gaming counsel, outside gaming counsel on?
at the final determination, we did it in-house using a mixture of our corporate finance and corporate legal teams, myself included. So certainly we worked with McDonald Carano throughout the consolidation of the row. And
I remember you being in front of us for that. So I knew you had put an extensive amount of work, and council had put a lot of work into that. I was just that piece that just kind of fell through the cracks where you ended up without the appropriate licenses that you needed is what concerned me. But I get why you got there. I'm surprised.
well, certainly on behalf of Caesars, we apologize for the lack of clarity and that we're going through a process like this. Our intentions are to make our operations as transparent and easily communicated to our regulators as possible, and we didn't do so here. So that was a mistake on our part. We have put in place processes to prevent that moving forward, and we've done. Trying to think of the number of billions of dollars of deals to get to that very convoluted agenda in front of you, and I'm unaware of this happening anywhere else, which doesn't mean that it should have happened here. Right? We're displeased that that's that there was a mistaken communication about the impact of this consolidation, and I'm hopeful this is the only time you'll hear from our company in this sort of item.
Well, I'm glad that it was fixed. It's getting fixed, and I appreciate you and the boards working together to get that done. I mean, hopefully this will clean it up for future transactions.
Absolutely. And I guess I should take this moment to say the staff that we work with at the Nevada Game Control Board, incredibly thoughtful, very professional, and very helpful as we work through this process to get to an agenda. We were asking for an expedited approval of the pledges, which is kind of the front 3/4 of this matter. And they worked through that in very short order to get us here. Also helped us clarify the licensing status around the entities, the holding companies around the row. So we appreciate their help and diligence to merge two complex and technical issues in a very short time frame.
I don't have anything else. Thank you.
And just because you were mentioning Mr. Hendricks, I do want to give a special shout out to the team. I think Agent Beeler and under supervision of Agent Crowley and Deputy Chief Tegia and Chief Hoffman, again, the Gaming Control Board had an extensive conversation, and I get that sometimes incredibly bright and sharp legal minds differ on conclusions. But Mr. Hicks, I thought, said it well. If that's what the Gaming Control Board believes, then we'll do what the Gaming Control Board, is asking. So I appreciate that dance. But Caesars is an extraordinary company, incredibly important to the state. I mean, that's much more than that. But I just appreciate, that we got in the pickle. We're all working together and rolling up sleeves to make it right. And we'll get there. And I just appreciate all the hard work that went into both sides and just the engagement and the good faith that's evolved since some of these things were discovered. Commissioner Silver, anything else while we have?
No, I was just
Mr.
going
Burnett,
to
Mr. Hendricks.
thank you for your presentation. And I was just going to add to what was just said, which was, I appreciate what you've said as far as working with the board. I commend the board for the investigators for really working with you guys in straightening this mishap out. It sounds like between the complicated merger process as well as COVID, that it's just one of those things that unfortunately was a one-off, and I'm glad that you guys were able to rectify it. But again, commending the investigators for really getting this done before us and rectifying the situation.
Thank you. And we certainly agree with that.
In the Attorney General's office as well. I know they're engaged. Mr. Hicks, you have a command performance here. Some of the famous 10-minute testimony in Game Control Board history earlier this month. But
Yes, Mr. Chairman, what can I do for you?
I just think, again, for the record, and Chairman Hendrick and Judge Assad and Member Watkins, I think did a great conversation. But the foundation of how this happened, and you just said COVID and mergers and cleaning up balance sheets and those kind of things. A lot of things happened to create a perfect storm that we're now finding some of the debris, if that's appropriate to say. But your ability to kind of set the stage and the foundation, I think, was critical, insightful, and an important piece of Nevada history. So if you don't mind, could you perhaps share your
I
comments?
can give you the short version,
Please.
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, this was an extraordinary time. We filed the applications for the El Dorado Caesars transaction merger in the latter part of 2019. At that time, El Dorado had separately been thinking about joining the 3 Reno properties under a single license. Over the years, they had accumulated each of these properties, El Dorado Hotel, Silver Legacy, and Circus Reno. And they're all interconnected by air bridges. And, the company, El Dorado, saw, some business advantages to having a single gaming operation rather than 3 separate ones, although they had been operated separately for years and years. So at the time, the decision was made by our client, El Dorado. They said, well, Bud, why don't you get approval so we can consolidate the 3 properties? And so we filed that application in November of 2019. Well, you'll all remember it was around middle to latter part of January 2020 when we realized that COVID was upon us and all the restrictions came into place. And as I said at the board, we recognized the difficulty that posed to the board and their agents because they were at that point all dismissed from their offices and directed to work from home. And we did the same thing in the law firm, and everybody else did in their businesses. And so our communications at that time were limited by telephone and emails and text messages, and we just couldn't sit down and talk to each other easily. And of course, this was a huge transaction for the state. I'm talking about the Caesars El Dorado merger. And it was a huge transaction for both parties. And there were tremendous pressures on both parties to get it done. There were some, 14, 15 different jurisdictions where applications were processed. They were also going through a Federal Trade Commission review. And it was extraordinarily complex, a lot of money at stake. And there was a lot of pressure on everybody to get it done. And I have to commend the board agents we worked with at the time. They did a wonderful job considering all the limitations imposed on them. And yes, we appeared in front of the commission, the board and commission, in July of 2020. We were the first, I think, semi-open public meeting during COVID. And we really appreciate that. And we got it done. There was still a minor wait while some issues were worked out with the Federal Trade Commission, but we finally closed it up. Now, we had a number of applications pending. We had the Reno consolidation application, but we also had pledge applications, very similar to what you have here. In fact, some of these pledges, I think, replace those pledges. And, we had discussed this with the board at the time, and the decision was made, well, if we have to have them all at the same time, it was going to delay the approval of the primary application, the merger application. And so it was agreed, well, we'll just continue the pledge applications and we'll continue the Reno consolidation to a convenient time for the board. So consequently, that's what happened. The pledge applications came up for approval, I believe, in September or October of 2020. And in December of 2020, the Reno consolidation was discussed. And again, the agents did a wonderful job of putting all of these things together for us. One thing that was not discussed during the investigation between us and the agents, or between us and our client, was how they were going to do this consolidation. And it just simply wasn't discussed. The idea was, okay, well, we'll have the Silver Legacy take over casino operations at all three properties. And henceforth, they would retain their names, but they would also trademark the name The Row for the consolidated operation. And again, there was no discussion at all. None of us identified the issues that your agents identified this year. And we didn't in the law firm. It was fine. We got in front of the commission. We discussed it. The commission approved it. Everything was fine. 4 months later, that approval was implemented. And the way it was done, again, the company was reorganizing a number of its subsidiaries at that time and cleaning up, the fact that they had put these two complex companies together. And so the decision was apparently made internally in the company to facilitate this through mergers. And what they did, they complied with the Gaming Control Board's requirements for closures of properties. There's a memorandum the board put out, and that gives explicit directions on how to close down a property if you're closing it down. And typically that's where someone sells the property and someone else comes in with their own new corporation that gets licensed to buy it. And so you have to shut down the operation to convey the assets to the successor. This was a little bit different because, it was a merger of these three companies, of the three separately licensed operating companies. And they merged under Nevada law. It's in Chapter 92A of the NRS. And that provides that the constituent companies, that is the non-surviving companies, merge into the surviving company. The surviving company then owns all of the assets and they take all the liabilities. So that's what was done here. Now, the timing of that is important here. And this sort of goes to the point of our difference of our analysis as to the legality of that particular transaction. We have a difference of opinion with the Attorney General's office, and we respect their opinion, but we think that we actually think that there was not a violation of any regulations or statute. And when you read the applicable statutes and regulations as they existed at that time, what happened was on midnight, March 31, 2021, that was the close date. The El Dorado closed its gaming operations, followed all the procedures. Circus Reno closed all of its gaming operations, followed all of the procedures. And they then surrendered their late gaming licenses to the Gaming Control Board. Technically, they mailed them in, but it was all done effective March 31, 2021. Now, under Nevada law, mergers of Nevada companies are not effective until the merger documents are filed with the Nevada Secretary of State. Those merger documents were filed 13 hours later on April 1, possibly an ominous date for this, but it was April 1, 2021. And it was received at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, some 13 hours after the closure and termination of the El Dorado and Silver Legacy licenses. And so technically, at the time of the merger, they were no longer licensed gaming companies. They were former licensed gaming companies. And so, the Gaming Control Act has a provision in it, NRS 463-245, that says you can only have one licensee, one non-restricted licensee on a premises at a time. So it would have been illegal to have three of them say, well, we're all still licensed for some period of time. They did what they had to do. They terminated their licenses. They terminated their operations. So, we think, I know it's a technical discussion and I really didn't get into it at the board, but, this is what, like, as I said, we lawyers love, we like to get into the weeds. Although I'm sure no one did that analysis at that time either, to be fair. But I think correctly so, there was not a violation. There certainly was never any intention to violate any statute or regulation. And, so anyway, that's what happened. And it wasn't until this year with the new pledges where the board agents working those applications, and they were not the same agents, saw that, oh, the commission records say one thing, your organization chart says another thing. What's happened here? There must have been some transfers of interest. And that kicked off the whole discussion that probably we should have had in 2020. So again, Mr. Chairman, as you referred to my earlier quote, look, if the board had wanted it done that way back in 2020, there's no doubt my client would have done it that way. We would have gotten these particular approvals, but it wasn't identified. There was no intention to violate any regulations. And in fact, legally, I think on behalf of my client, there was no violation. But the applications today fix this, so we do appreciate the time and attention the board has given to us. Like I say, we respectfully have a disagreement with the Attorney General's analysis. But these applications cure the problem, will fix the records, and we'll go forward from there.
Mr. Hicks, thank you. Always a pleasure. Commissioners, questions, Mr. Hicks?
I just would say, Mr. Hicks, that it's too bad I don't have my old Supreme Court hat on, because I would give you an answer to that maybe if you guys briefed it. But I don't sit in that position anymore. So I'm glad that you guys just followed the AG and came forward today. So, but it is an interesting issue.
Well,
as you sit here, and
it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting as you sit here as going back.
Well, we were unable to find any specific case law on it, but look,
That's
let's
why
just fix it.
Worthy of the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Additional questions? Mr. Giordano, you get to just sit back there. Nothing to add except a nod and affirmation. There you go. I'm the only non-attorney, I think, in this whole scrum here. So I'm at a just, as I've said, I think the way this has been pursued in good faith, we've learned some lessons. This could be a case study for why outside gaming counsel should be retained in, corporate, maneuverings. But I totally understand that there are two sides. They differ. They respect each other. But the Gaming Control Board side, Gaming Commission, I have the gavel, so I guess we win. But just to really appreciate the good faith that you all and Caesars Corporation, it's noted, it's appreciated. And I, again, as a non-attorney here, this is just a great set of case law. Go to Boyd, a tape of your testimony, in front of the Gaming Control Board. But there's a podcast here that needs to be there, and not only from the legal side, but this is Nevada history. If gaming is such a foundation for our incredible state, this transaction and El Dorado and Caesars, and this was a seminal moment, certainly in northern Nevada, but for this industry. And it's important, and this an oral history at UNR or something. This needs to be preserved, and it's a great example of how to do things, how to work together, and how good people can differ on certain ideas and law. So with that, any other comments or questions for the McDonald-Carano folks or Caesars or Mr. Hendricks? None? Then I think we are ripe for a motion, so I will accept one. Treasurer or Commissioner Sills-Rainey.
I guess I'll, Chair, I move for the approval of non-restricted item 2 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and as recommended by the Nevada Gaming Control Board.
Thank you. We have a motion. Any questions on it? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion's carried. Congratulations. Thank you again for all the hard work that the folks at the Gaming Control Board, Caesars, McDonald-Carano, well done. Good on you.
I think we also have an order. Do we have a?
It's the 15th revised order of registration, draft number 1.
Yeah, I'll incorporate that as well. That the 15th revised order of registration as well will be incorporated.
Madam Secretary, does that work for you?
Sure does.
You're happy. All right. So
Thank you.
we've
Thank
taken
you.
our action. And I'm going to take since I have the gavel today, I'm going to take the liberty to digress a bit. It's very nice to see you, Mr. Hicks. We shared a great adventure called the Nevada Sesquicentennial, Nevada's 150th birthday. And that birthday lasted years, but we got to do it together. So Governor Sandoval at the time, you know, and his love for our state and the history of it, he created a commission, which I had a part to play, and Mr. Hicks was on that, but we had an extraordinary journey. We did, we had no funding, we had no structure, and we ended up raising millions of dollars. We had 500 events during the sesquicentennial year around Nevada. Nevadans embraced it. We set world records of the most people singing the state song simultaneously, these very important things. But Mr. Hicks was there every step of the way, and you were the president of the not-for-profit entity that banked what the commission was doing. And, as people who love our state of Nevada, you have a great legacy in how you help celebrate and organize and finance and just bring joy out in Nevada for the sesquicentennial. Thank you, Mr. Hicks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The Gaming Control Board had a play in that. I think Mr. Hicks tried to pursue a lottery that we approved.
Yeah,
The Gaming Control
and
Board.
they said no.
We initially had some issues with that.
I remember that. Yeah. I think we were trying to auction off medallions minted at the Carson City Mint.
It was the motorcycle.
And
Yeah.
Mr. Cashman was involved.
Yes.
Yeah, all good. But thank you. That makes me smile.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to all. Madam Secretary, is our court reporter doing all right?
I believe so.
Everyone's all right? We're going to take a 5-minute break. Thank you. Gaming Commission will come back to order, and I do love my gavel. It's been years since I've had a state gavel. Still got the muscle memory of banging it. All right, let's go quickly to actually non-restricted item number 3. Number 3.
Non-restricted number 3 are the applications of Terezzo LLC doing business as Prospector Hotel and Gambling Hall for a non-restricted gaming license, slot machines only, and for licensure as a manufacturer and distributor. It is also the applications of AMS 2012 Trust and Jeffrey C. Pfeiffer Gaming Trust for registration as a holding company. You also have the applications of AM3 2012 Trust, Anthony Marnell III, Jeffrey C. Pfeiffer Gaming Trust, and Rex Marnell for licensure as a member, manager, or key employee as noted on the agenda. It is also the applications of Anthony Marnell III, Matthew Woodhead, Rex Marnell, and Jeffrey Pfeiffer for finding of suitability as a trustee and or beneficiary as noted on the agenda. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with the exceptions and conditions as noted on the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. So for the record, this item is being continued to the October 2024 Gaming Commission meeting. So let's proceed, Madam Secretary. Please read in non-restricted.
Non-restricted number 4 is the application of John Helderman for licensure as a key executive at Bowtie Hospitality LV LLC. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Mays, always a pleasure to see you. Mr. Helderman, thank you for being with us today. The floor is yours.
All right. Well, thank you. Sonia Vermees from the law firm Brownstein Hyatt Farber Schreck on behalf of Bowtie Hospitality LV LLC, doing business as Fontainebleau, Las Vegas. To my right is the applicant, John Helderman. He's the Chief Financial Officer. Also here this morning, enjoying the presentation, is Stacy Michaels. She's Chief Administrative Officer for the company, and Melissa Shuba, Director of Regulatory Compliance. This is Mr. Helderman's application for licensure as a key executive pursuant to Regulation 15B.160. Mr. Helderman has a financial and legal background, both in education and in his career. He has been in the gaming industry since about 2009 with Caesars Entertainment. He also worked in the nonprofit industry with Goodwill Industries. So with that, he is happy to tell you more about himself or answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Vermees. Mr. Helderman, welcome. It's a pleasure to see you. We were enamored and watching the Gaming Control Board presentation. It's on the highlight reel. But if you'd like to just quickly describe yourself and reset the record, and if we're going to ask you questions, we'll ask you questions after that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and commissioners. Thank you for having me. And Sonia captured a lot of it. I've been in Las Vegas since 2003, and I started with public accounting and then moved to Caesars Entertainment in 2009. And after Caesars, I left and did a successful turnaround at Goodwill of Southern Nevada. I'm very, very proud of that work, and I stay on the board there to keep an eye on the organization that's flourished, continue to flourish. And I'm delighted to be back in the gaming industry with Fontainebleau. It's such a premium property, and it's like playing on an all-star team. And so I appreciate the opportunity for licensure.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions? Commissioner Silver.
Not really questions, just comments. I really applaud your efforts with Goodwill and turning it around and what you've done for that organization. And you have an amazing resume. I'm happy to support your app. And do you know Sheena Berger? She's one of the in-house counsel.
Yes,
She
I
was one
understand
of my externs in the Supreme Court.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, she's really great to work with, a lot of energy and just a lot of enthusiasm. I've never seen her on a bad day.
Oh, good. That's great to hear. I went to Fontainebleau first time and very impressed with the hotel. As a local, we sometimes don't go down to the Strip, and I made it a Sunday brunch, and just a beautiful property. So congratulations on moving over from Caesars to this new, really extraordinary property.
It is. Thank you very much, Commissioner. It is a beautiful property, and it's easier to get in and out of than a lot of the places on the strip.
Yeah,
you know?
it was
So I
easy.
think hopefully locals will pick up on that.
It was easy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Solzer.
Excuse me. I also didn't have any questions. Your background is very impressive. Looks you've done some really good work on behalf of Goodwill, and there was nothing in the application that gave me any concern. I was remembering something about which North Carolina school you cheer for.
Oh,
Which one is it?
NC State, which has been a lifetime of futility. But
the other Wolf Pack.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, exactly. I can say go Wolfpack in Nevada and nobody gets offended.
Well, good job. I like it when people are loyal to their undergrad.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that is a perfect segue because I actually do have, despite a very impressive CV, I have a problem with you and your application. I'm a Stanford Cardinal kind of guy, and I'm still missing my Pac-10, which became the Pac-12, which became the Pac-2, and now I'm part of the ACC, and I'm playing the other Wolf Pack in my new conference, I think in November. I can't wager anymore, but I would have if I would have known that. But despite this conflict and tension, I'm going to keep an open mind about your application today.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Of all the schools, it seemed like we set a kind of high academic bar, and so Stanford. I'm glad to see we had high academic standards in the ACC, but it is a strange footprint, right? At this point,
we had a lot of young people, scholar athletes, spend a lot of times on airplanes. It's going to be hard, but we did have a nice debut against Syracuse on Friday night. Time running out and got a field goal, so that was good. But I look forward to the rivalry.
Well, I never bet on or against NC State, right? It's just it'll disappoint you every time.
Right. Serious matters. Again, just it's a pleasure to see you coming back and being in this role. Just for the record, the Gaming Control Board worked really hard with you. You worked really hard with them. You've got all your stuff in a file folder again. But could you describe your process going through this, please?
Well, we had a great agent, David Hearn. He was very professional through the whole process. The follow-up questions he had, I thought were made a lot of sense to delve into. When I was with Blueberry Gaming, I had pulled everything together for licensing applications in various tribal jurisdictions and other states. And so I had this stuff pretty recently in terms of having my HUD-1 and having old tax returns and all my addresses and all this stuff. So it wasn't as challenging as it would have been if I hadn't done that pretty recently. So I was able to go back and reference those applications, and it sped up my process. And then Melissa Shuba on our team helped me a lot as well and made sure we were organized. And so she gets a lot of the credit for being timely and having a good application together.
Excellent. Again, watching the Gaming Control Board meeting, and are you glad I brought in sport? You got to bring in sport or food, or Judge Assad is not thrilled with the meeting. So at least I worked in the sport angle for you, sir. Yeah, there you go. The fact that you turned your back on the legal profession was another, for the non-attorney here. I appreciate that, but the discussions that you had regarding, departing, it's a great skill set for life to have, and it serves you well. I was highly amused how you were recruiting a new employee and you got a wife and 4 kids afterwards, but it's all good and wholesome story.
Well, when I told my wife that they asked about her at the Gaming Control Board meeting, she got real pale, and I showed her the video, and she was amused, but yeah, it could have turned out a lot worse.
She got a shout out. And just remind me of the committee assignments you'll be working. Well, you're going to be on the AML committee for the company. Yes, you're already on it.
Yes. We actually had a meeting on Tuesday, I want to say.
Wait, Wednesdays are your senior staff meeting day, aren't they?
That's right.
That's
So
right.
today's Thursday. So the Gaming Control Board took you away from the weekly meeting. We didn't.
That's I appreciate the consideration. Thanks. It's good to be in those Wednesday meetings because you go around the table and you hear what's going on in food and beverage and nightlife and security and everything else. And so it's a great forum. So the Thursday schedule worked out better for sure. So thank you for that. But as far as committees are concerned, on our AML committee, we have monthly nightlife compliance committees where we talk about our nightlife. I'm not on our compliance committee, but I attend the meetings and we prepare information every quarter for our compliance officer on things that we want to share with our compliance committee, whether it's new contracts, whether it's HR issues or anything else that we want to kind of get in front of them. And so I participate in that, but I'm not actually on that compliance committee.
Well, I thought you were. Okay. But you engage.
Yes.
And you're satisfied with all that's going on.
I think we have a very comprehensive process. We take it very seriously, and our compliance officer is a great leader in that. He's experienced. His name's Larry Whalen. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him or not, but he leads that process in a very comprehensive way.
And I too want to just follow up on the community aspect. Goodwill Industries was having massive headaches, and I think you took 2 years of your life to walk it through Chapter 11. Never a pleasant thing, but got it back into, as a not-profit is, but just some kind of financial stability, and good on you. I think I saw that they called you back, and you're the vice chair.
That's right.
Of it right now. So you continue to do the public service, and I think that's just always very important and indicative of a soul, and appreciate what you do there.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to talk about Goodwill as much as anybody wants to and do a public service announcement about them. They have great training programs that they pay for, right? So we're training people to get their certified nurse's assistant level 1. We pay for the whole thing, and so I feel like we're helping feed that the healthcare industry in Southern Nevada, and employing a lot of people that might struggle otherwise to get employment.
Mr. Hellman, you've got just a marvelous and wide-ranging CV. Thank you for doing what you do, and I have absolutely no reservation moving forward today. And with that, if there are no further questions, a motion would be in order.
I'm happy to make a motion for approval of non-restricted item number 4 is read into the record by Madam Secretary and is recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a question? None. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And if you're opposed, say no. Motion's carried. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you
luck.
very much. Thank you, guys.
Ms. Vermees gets to hang out.
Yep.
Yeah, you got stacked work here. Thank you, Mr.
I
Hilderman.
appreciate you putting them all together. That was kind.
I didn't do that, but I appreciate those who did it for you. All right, Madam Secretary, please read in non-restricted 5.
Non-restricted number 5 is the application of James Odell for finding of suitability as a director at Light & Wonder, Inc. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Thank you, Ms. Vermees. Pleasure to see you always. I know we're having technical issues, but do we have Mr. Odell with us? Mr. Odell, can you hear me? If you can, maybe you're on mute.
I don't see him on our screen here.
Mr. Odell, can you hear me? Mr. Odell? I think it's 5 a.m. or so your time. I appreciate that we're 17 hours difference if he's in Australia today.
He's coming in.
Mr. Odell, good morning to you. Very early morning. Can you hear me?
Right.
You're on mute, sir.
Hello, yes. Can you hear me?
Now we can. Excellent.
Oh, thank you.
And
Thank
just to
you so
let you
much.
know, we're having some technical issues here. So the sound, your testimony is a little bit hard for us to hear, but if you could just speak slowly and clearly, we'll understand. Again, thank you for joining us today. I know it's very early in your morning. I'm still drinking today's coffee. You're drinking tomorrow's coffee. It always fascinates me how the world goes around, but certainly appreciate that. We appreciate that you were in front of the Gaming Control Board, earlier this month. We absolutely wanted to spare you having to, I know you do a couple trips a year, but to do them within 2 weeks of each other is a bit much. But again, don't know what commissioners might have for you in terms of questions. I have a few, but I very much appreciate you spending your very, very early morning with us to have a conversation. So with that,
please let me just please let me replicate that. Thank you so much for allowing me that. I was in Nevada 2 weeks ago, and it makes a great difference. So it's no big deal to be up at 4 in the morning. I very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Vermees, do you want to bring us into this at all?
I can start something up. Sonia Vermees, Brownstein Hyatt Farber Schreck, on behalf of Light and Wonder, the public company. Appearing by video conference from Melbourne is Jamie Odell, the applicant. This is his application for a finding of suitability as a director. He is the chair. This application is pursuant to NRS 463-637 and Regulation 16.415. We thank you for allowing Mr. Odell to appear by video conference and not requiring to make that very, very long trip back to Las Vegas. And he can tell you more about himself and answer questions. As you've seen in the record, he has a very impressive, demanding career in various industries, has been in gaming for several years, going back to Aristocrat, I think in 2009. He has filed applications and been licensed all over the world. And he is happy to appear by video conference before you this morning.
Thank you, Ms. Vermees. Mr. Odell, one of the reasons we wanted to visit with you today is, as Ms. Vermees just said, you were licensed with Aristocrat, but in Nevada that was, I believe, 2010, and the world has changed dramatically. Our personal lives have changed dramatically. We don't look any older, but my goodness, all the things that happened in the last 14 years. And your view into not only the world, but the gaming space and where you've been, I think those are all worthy of conversations. I think Chair Hendrick asked you, perhaps your impressions are the largest changes you've seen, but since we made you get up so early this morning, if you don't mind just talking a little bit about your view of the industry and where you are and what you see in Nevada.
Thank you. Again, firstly, I appreciate this, and also see Nevada still remains the lead in terms of regulatory control, and very much that's how our team thinks about things. I think it's been a fascinating 14 years in this industry. The main thing I would say is how the industry has globalized so much. And I think that's been led particularly by online, and we spend a lot more time thinking about online gaming and how individuals these days interact on so many multiple screens and multitask all the time. It's extraordinary if you look at the younger generation. So it's no longer about a visit to the casino to play games with your friends or your family and have a nice dinner. People are just multitasking, looking on different screens, and also the regulatory challenges which come with that across multiple jurisdictions. The advance of technology obviously has enhanced that. I think one of the advantages that we have through such strong regulation is, to some extent, we can monitor early developments in technology to make sure that they suit the environment that we work in, the sector we work in, and the responsibilities that we have. So the technology, it definitely has moved faster. Product is quicker to come out. There's more product. I think there's my side of the industry, the producing games, the quality of product that's coming out is multiple times stronger than it was 15 years ago. The entertainment that players are getting from it is extraordinary. But for us, it's keeping on top of how global technology is impacting. We control that in a manner which is acceptable to us and to the various regulations. And as I say, online gaming in particular, when we think about that, we have to have very rigid controls. We're not allowed to do it, real money gaming in Australia. There's certain states in the US where can do it. And that's really increased multiple times how we think about managing within different jurisdictions. But overall, I think the industry came through COVID extraordinarily strongly. It showed its strength as an industry, its contribution to the community as part of the entertainment landscape that they enjoy. But keeping in touch with this younger generation of new technology, boy, that's something that we have to do at all times. And it's certainly accelerated the need for making quick decisions and being alert. And in many cases, interactions with your team to make sure that we're on the right side of what people think is really happening.
Thank you, sir. I did have a question about your transition from being executive chairman to chairman. And I understand that transaction, but and it's a public company in Australia, so I don't know quite some of the governance rules. But are you considered an independent director now, or you're still because of your ties with the company? You know, in the U.S. that'd be difficult to declare, independence, as a directorship. But how was that treated for you?
Yeah, I consider myself a non-independent chair, but no longer do we call me executive chair. And the reason for that was really, we're now, when we did a secondary listing from NASDAQ onto the ASX, the Australian Stock Exchange, of which about 26% of our stock is now held in Australia and the remainder on NASDAQ. NASDAQ obviously is the primary market. The role of executive chairman, the title of executive chairman, doesn't really exist in Australia. And it started, so when that happened, it started to cause some confusion between my role and Matt Wilson's role. We have a first-class CEO in Matt, based out in Vegas, who is very comfortable with the whole thing. But there were occasions where, like, who's got the decision on these things? And I act in the manner of a non-executive chairman. I deal with Matt and his leadership team in the way that a non-executive chairman has. I'm not in the business 24/7 like a CEO is. And it causes confusion for Australian investors. So on reflection with the team, we decided to take that out. And my role really is that of a non-independent director. It actually plays the role of a chair, not an executive chair, in terms of my daily contribution to the business.
Well, you're doing something right, because I think your stock price has gone up like 40% since you made that transition. Good on you.
Thank you.
Questions for Mr. Abdel?
I don't have any questions. It's very difficult to hear with this technology issue that we're having, but it's a pleasure having you, and I do appreciate you being up at such an early hour to be with us.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I just want to echo the comments and say, it's a pleasure to have you here, and thank you for your presentation. Obviously you've applied or received approvals in 59 other jurisdictions all over, and being a prior CEO of Aristocrat, I mean, it's an amazing resume. So thank you. I fully support it.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
One of the things I appreciate about your resume was your time with Foster's. When I was an expatriate in the Middle East, vitamin F is what we called your product, and it was a very important thing to us. Had to be pouched in. This is a question you're absolutely not expecting, but it's an easy one, and hopefully the answer is yeah. But I understand if it's not. One of the things I like to do is international sport, and I'm engaged in various activities, and one of them is the International Olympic Committee. And I know your friends up in Queensland, in Brisbane, are getting the games in 2032, which is not so far away, and I know it seems like that. But with I know you're Southern, and Sydney's not the same, state or territory. But are you involved in any way with preparations for those games, or the bid that got it up to Queensland?
No, we're not. The states act very independently over here, and Melbourne's had, I live in Melbourne, Melbourne has had its Olympic Games, and it's what we call our Commonwealth Games, but this is very much a bid by the Queensland government to promote the state of Queensland, and so we don't have involvement with other states.
Excellent. No, they hosted a convention called Sport Accord, which brought the whole world. But it was good pre-marketing for their Olympic bid, and they did it so well they actually got the bid. So good on that.
Mhm.
I don't have any further questions for you, sir. So again, I hope that was worth waking up early for, but Nevada license is incredibly special. We just haven't seen you for 14 years and so much has changed. We thought it was important to at least kick tires and see us and revisit the Gaming Control Board staff. But you are, you know, extremely and beyond qualified for the request in front of us today. And welcome, and I will wholeheartedly support this application. So with that, do we have a motion?
Yes, Chair, I would move for the approval of non-restricted gaming item 6, right? No, 5, sorry. Non-restricted member 5, as read into the record by Madam Secretary and recommended by the Nevada Gaming Control Board.
Thank you, Commissioner Silver. Questions on our motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And if you're opposed, say no. Motion's carried. Congratulations, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cheers. Madam Secretary, please read in non-restricted number 6, please.
Non-restricted number 6 is the application of Dante Regalado for finding of suitability as an officer at Wynn Resorts Limited. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Thank you. Hi, Ms. Vermees, your triple header here.
Sonia Vermees from the law firm Brownstein Hyatt Farber Schreck for Wynn Resorts Limited. It is my pleasure to introduce you to the applicant, Dante Dan Regalado. He is the Chief Information Officer, North America for the company. This is his first time appearing before you, and this is his first entree into gaming. He's had an illustrious career in technology with other companies, including Walgreens. He's happy to tell you more about himself and answer questions.
Good morning, Mr. Regalado.
Regalado.
Regalado. Sorry, I didn't do
No
that
worries.
that well. Again, we had the wonderful opportunity to watch you in front of the Gaming Control Board, listen to your answers. Yours is a wonderful journey, pretty strange hops in a couple areas, but to land at the doorstep of the Wynn folks is you know, very impressive and good on you. But if you could just maybe tell us a little, you know, a synopsis of what you did in front of the Gaming Control Board, but just give us a chance to get to know you a little bit, but just tell us a little about your story.
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone, and it's my pleasure to be here. Prior to joining Wynn Resorts, I spent almost 3 decades in various industries. I started my career at in a consulting firm and then spent almost more than 2 decades with retail and healthcare. But I consider myself extremely lucky to have landed and found Wynn Resorts. It's an amazing brand. Every day I learn about the business, amazes me. We are truly proud of the guest experience that we provide every day to to the guest that enters our resort. I was born and raised in the Philippines. I came here 24 years ago with young baby at that time. She's now 24 years old. And I have another baby, which is not that small. She's 19. She's chasing her dreams to become a aerospace engineer at Georgia Tech. My wife and I just recently moved here. I'm starting to like the weather. I didn't like it when it was 120. We moved from Chicago.
It's a dry heat.
It is a dry heat, so it's not that bad. We moved from Chicago. We lived there for more than 2 decades. And I'm happy to answer any more questions.
He should also add that he's a very impressive triathlete.
I saw that bike.
You have
I
very
saw that
expensive
bike was,
bikes.
yeah.
When you put your bikes in the same asset column as your automobiles, you know it's a good bike. But
Yes.
that was one of my questions. Are you a triathlete? I know one of the bikes is called a triathlete bike or
Yes.
whatever it is, but I know it's just biking, or you immerse in water and like to run long distances too.
I do all of that because I am not good at any of the three sports, so I combined all of them. I did learn how to swim on my way to doing my first triathlon. Almost drowned, survived to tell the story. I have since done 12 full Ironmans, and I'm about to do my 13th in the neighboring state of Arizona. And for those of you who don't know that, that's a 2.4 mile swim, 112-mile bike ride, and a marathon at the end. And that has
Where do
definitely
you swim at there?
Tempe. So it's a
But
great.
I mean, like I've done triathlons in Mission Bay, but what water are you swimming in Arizona?
Tempe Town Lake.
Oh, a lake. Okay.
A very clean and murky lake.
Just like the Seine River in Paris for those athletes.
Yeah. Yes. Right. Triathlon has become part of my life and has actually influenced my leadership as well. There are so many unknown things that happens during the long course of the day, and just like running a business, just like running a big team, you have to stay relaxed through adverse conditions and continue to make the sound decisions so that you can finish the race.
Excellent. Oh, thank you for that. Good on you. I could do a triathlon, but I think it would take me like 5 years to do all the different pieces. So again, I appreciate how you use sport in your life and when you're reporting to the CFO. Questions?
Yep.
I guess I would just follow up on that triathlon. Like I did sprints. I did not do Ironman. So my hat is off to you. So you probably prepare down at Lake Mead then? Is that where you practice?
I
Or-
do swim a lot on a pool in the gym. Because of the time constraint, I have to be at the pool and out and go to work or after work. I do, when I was living in Chicago, I was swimming in Lake Michigan for practice. But I have done Ironmans before where all I did was swim in the pool, and then the first time I swim is during the race on open water.
Okay. That's interesting. Thank you.
But I do want to try Lake Mead before the
Yeah.
race.
Well, it's a lot like the Seine River. It's not good. It's
I won't
not
try
good.
the Lake
At
Mead
Boulder
then.
Beach, not good. Oh no. Good. Have you gone and really swam it? Like put your head down and looked at the bottom? Yeah. No, it's pretty scary.
We're learning a lot about each other up here today.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay. I know where you can swim. You
Good.
can swim. I did a bunch of triathlons at sprints at Lake Las Vegas. Much better.
Yes. There's a race coming in October in Lake Las Vegas.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yep.
Commissioner Solis ready?
I don't have any questions. I'm just impressed. You have a great background. I wouldn't make it out of a triathlon. So anybody that can do it has my utmost respect.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Well, I'm marvelously comfortable, but I'm going to make you work a little bit.
Okay.
Just your background is so eclectic, but it comes together in a great way. So it just makes you a better person in a key spot for WIN. Could you talk? You did at the gaming control board level, but you know, I spent all last week at a cybersecurity conference, and we talked a lot about chief information officers and the CISO. And WIN is, I believe, taken maybe a counter position on that, where you have a CISO, reporting, I believe,
That's correct.
to you,
Yep.
rather than separate and straight to the CEO. Could you just talk a little bit about the philosophy behind that? Because again, that's not the current trend. Doesn't mean it doesn't work. You talked a lot about partnership. So much of this was about personalities and working. That's different than governance. But if you could address
Happy
that
to
from the
answer
WIN
that question.
perspective, please.
Yep. I think at the end of the day, the secret sauce of making this work is your partnership and collaboration with the CISO regardless of where he or she might be rolling up to. Coming from Walgreens, coming from Banfield, information security rolled up to information technology. So it's not uncommon. I do understand that on the strip we have our neighbors where it's separate. The beauty of how I see it in our organization is that we're actually very joined at the hip. So our information security and my information technology team sits with me very regularly to review all of our programs, and they benefit from knowing what each other is doing so that we can create a secure DNA within the platforms or projects that we're delivering. In fact, no project or platforms goes out without the review of our CISO. He's also a very tenured leader in the company, so I respect him a lot. But we do have a process in case we have a major disagreement that him and I do not agree. We both have a way to pull in our CFO, who I report to. And so far that hasn't happened, but we are prepared to do that because at the end of the day, both of our job and everyone's job in the company is to protect the company. And the other thing that results to this is we are able to balance velocity of delivering projects and programs for the company with built-in security in it versus slowing it down. So I actually really believe in this model. Again, it's the relationship and the partnership. And every day we talk about how do we get ahead of our enemies. And we don't sleep knowing we're secured. We always challenge ourselves that we need to do better because our enemies are continuously innovating with the use of technology to infiltrate us.
The enemies are at the door. Some of your sister companies have experienced that in Nevada, and it's just unpleasant. I've had that in my other world and still unsure what little nuggets have been left, and it's just a profound thing. So I get the partnership, I get the relationship part. It seems to work well, and if you have an issue, the conflicting part of it is that you can both go to Ms. Cameron Doe, the CFO. Is that right?
Yep.
All right. But again, a lot of that's, on the personal relationship basis that it works. I would just hope your company continues to look at it, review, and, that may evolve or be different, but I know there's a asterisk here, and you do it well, and for all the benefits you just described, I get that.
Right.
I totally get it. So,
And then what I told the board also is when it comes to cybersecurity, we all work for our CISO.
Yep. No, that's an important role. Your CIO role for Win North America, how does that engage at all with the UAE or Macau? I mean, it's a vast empire. Everyone, they're all very different, but it's hard not to engage in these parts of the world, even if they have different boards and governance in Hong Kong or UAE. But how do you interact with them on various issues?
Very closely. In fact, I've had the pleasure of visiting Macau last week. I was there with Ms. Cameron Doe for several days, just getting immersed in their business, in their technology. But even before that, we do have a regular catch up with all of the CIOs, and our ability to share what we're doing on all of the sides of the world actually benefits all of us. And it's not only information sharing, but also asset sharing. So if they have a piece of technology that's interesting to us, we explore using it, and vice versa. So it's a very highly collaborative relationship. We're also providing a lot of support for UAE as they open. In fact, one of my staff is actually moving to UAE to help them open it. And so Jason and I, the prior CIO of Win Las Vegas, stay very close, and he relies very heavily on my team to make it happen by 2027. And then globally, I'm responsible for the information security. So our CISO is actually the global CISO. So even though from a technology perspective, we're North America, from a information security perspective, it's global.
Have you been to Al Marja Island?
Not yet. I am looking forward to seeing it. I heard that they are pouring floor 17 or 20 now.
I've heard there's great progress being
Very
made.
progress.
It's terribly exciting, and I know the rating agencies are excited about what they've seen, and that's without a next step. So that's it'll be just to go, any of those, I think 7 Emirates in the UAE, as they all move forward. It's just a fascinating time. One of the, and was that your first time to Macau?
That was my first time to Macau. I've been to Hong Kong several times, but I never ventured into Macau before.
It always amuses me that the carpeting in Wynn Macau and Cotai is the same as the carpeting, over on the street down the way. They got a great deal on the carpet.
I felt at home. And similar restaurants also.
Commissioner Solzerani.
Apologies, I did have one question. I had a note, but I overlooked it.
Yep.
How do you deal with the Macau Privacy Act with information? Since
We-
you
Yeah,
have them all kind of linked globally.
we don't share. From a patron perspective, in fact, they have their own data center, they have their own IGT, they have their own opera, so we don't share.
Does that pose challenges for you do you have to get special licensing or permissions when you're there to look at their information or no?
No, actually, I was there not to look at their information, but just to understand the business, how they do things, to understand their technologies and platforms. We didn't dive into their data. We did dive into their overall strategy from a technology and data perspective, but without looking at specifically at their data.
Are there limitations on you doing so?
I believe so, including Boston, by the way. I'm getting my gaming license in Massachusetts also. So when I go to Boston, since I don't have a license yet, I get escorted around because I can't wander around in the offices alone. So we're very conscious of that.
Okay, just curious
But
about that.
you.
Thank you.
I was going to ask you if your Massachusetts application was still pending.
It
It
is
is.
still pending.
Any idea when that happens?
I don't know. Mm-mm.
And, the Gaming Control Board always asks, but it's always nice to get it on the record. As a first-time applicant for a Nevada gaming license, how did you find your experience? Most joyful process you've ever had?
Absolutely. Very thorough.
Good answer. Thorough is a common word.
Yeah, very thorough. And it allowed me to actually understand my data and my life better because I've never had to look at my finances this deeply. But I enjoyed it. Senior Agent Brad Bernard was very professional in navigating us through this process. And obviously, I have the best support, including internally. So I did definitely find it very thorough and smooth at the same time.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Commissioners, we have a motion. If we don't have any more questions.
Yes, Chair, I'll move for the approval of non-restricted item number 6 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and as recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Thank you for your motion. Do we have questions on the motion? I hear none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Motion's carried. Congratulations. Savor the opportunity. Do it well. Wynn's lucky to have you.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Vermees, excellent job. Thank you.
Nice to see you all.
Are you finished with us?
I am.
Good.
Time for lunch.
Good luck on your triathlon.
I don't think I would put my bike on my asset list. I think your bike is more valuable than my car. Is there a blue book price for bikes?
I said,
Why don't you get up here so we can hear you?
I told my friends that if I die, I hope my wife doesn't sell my bike for the price I told her. Some very lucky buyers.
Cheers. Be well. All right, Madam Secretary, I believe that concludes our non-restricted items for discussion. Is that correct?
Correct.
And would you please read in the next item?
Would you like me to read in restricted 3, 4, and 5 together as was done at the board meeting?
Or are we doing the stipulation part now? Or, oh, we're doing that later. All right, so would you please discuss the restricted items we have for discussion, please?
The items held out for discussion are 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 3, 4, and 5 were read in together at the board meeting.
All right, so just for the record, item 1 was removed from the agenda. Item 2 was on the consent calendar. 3, 4, and 5 items simultaneously. We're taking the cue from the Gaming Control Board. I believe we'll take the motions for each separately as they did, if that still makes sense. But Mr. Donato, welcome. Always a great pleasure to see you.
I do still need to read them in though.
And you need to read that. Proceed, please.
Restricted number 3 is the application of PW2 LLC doing business as the bar at Centerpoint for a restricted gaming license, and the applications of JRW Gaming Trust, JSW Gaming Trust, Peter Simon II, James Wickman, and Joseph Wickman for licensure as a member and or manager as noted on the agenda. Restricted number 4 is the application of 2JP LLC doing business as the bar at Tropicana and Durango for a restricted gaming license, and the applications of JRW Gaming Trust, JSW Gaming Trust, Peter Simon II, James Wickman, and Joseph Wickman for licensure as a member and or manager as noted on the agenda. Restricted number 5 is the application of JJP LLC doing business as the bar at Las Vegas Boulevard and Wigwam for a restricted gaming license, and the applications of JRW Gaming Trust, JSW Gaming Trust, Peter Simon II, James Wickman, and Joseph Wickman for licensure as a member and or manager as noted on the agenda. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board on each item is for approval.
Thank you, Secretary Rupert, for reading that into the record. Mr. Donato, again, always a pleasure to see you. Mr. Wickman, welcome. Mr. Donato, do you want to set the stage for us, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Madam Secretary. Jeff Donato, enrolled agent. With me today is Mr. James Wickman, one of the owners of the businesses. With your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to walk through very quickly each one of the applications, and then we'd be here to answer any questions you may have.
Perfect. Proceed.
So for item number 3, this application is for a new gaming license for a brand new tavern location in the city of Las Vegas to be known as the Bar at Centerpoint. The location will have 15 machines. The applicant is applying to hold the gaming license themselves, and although they will be holding the license themselves, they still have contracted with a slot route operator under a participation agreement. This location is intended, they anticipate to open by mid to late October. I've talked with the city of Las Vegas this week, and we are all set to go there from a local licensing perspective. They are waiting for the permission or the approval letter from this board in order to be able to issue the local gaming license. So that wraps up item number 3. With regards to item number 4.
Mr. Donato, I'm sorry, could you repeat the date?
The date of the opening?
Yes.
It's mid to late October.
Okay.
More trial, probably October 20th is they're thinking. They're just wrapping up a couple of things. There's grease interceptor they're working on right now. And once that gets wrapped up, they should be pretty much completed with everything to be able to get their final approvals, the final inspections, and then we can obtain the local licensing as well on that one.
You did say that's a completely new build, right?
Yes, it is an existing building, so they did a remodel. The building was already there, and they went in and did a remodel of the location.
Okay. Yeah, the pictures we had looked pretty empty.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
I had a question as to, I know you said in the board meeting, it was on Town Center, but what side of the street? I was just curious because I can't tell from the pictures which shopping.
North side.
It's the northeast side of Charleston and Town Center, right
Northeast.
behind the CVS, and I believe there's the Terrible Herbs.
By the CVS. We're in the same one.
Yes, for the locals that have been here for a while, it used to be the old Blockbuster of Charleston.
Oh,
a lot of
gosh.
people related to that. So, and right after that, it was a Goodwill clothing store.
Okay, thank you. I'm just trying to picture where it was.
With regards to item number 4, this is more of an internal housekeeping item. Can you hear me? More of an internal housekeeping item for items number 4 and 5. These 2 locations are existing, have been operating for a number of years. They are currently sharing in gaming revenue, and this is, again, is just housekeeping to make these locations more in line with their existing locations where they hold the licenses. So as we were going through the application for the new location, it made sense to then submit applications for them to hold the licenses at these other 2 locations. And with that, and even if they were to hold, and if they were approved to hold the licenses, they would still use a slot route operator that they're currently using at those locations. And with that, we're here to answer any questions that you may have.
Congratulations on retaining legal advice on your consolidation.
Mr. Chairman, just for the record, I am an enrolled agent and not an attorney.
I said
so,
legal advice.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you can't give legal advice. Says this non-attorney. Thank you for what business advice. How about that?
Thank you.
Questions?
I just had a couple of questions. So this, give me the total of locations that this brings this group to.
6 existing locations, and this new one will make number 7.
Okay, and are they sharing in revenue and all in the other ones?
They hold the license for all the other 6 locations that are existing. I'm sorry. They hold the licenses for 4 of them. They currently share in revenue at 2 of them, which equals 6. But the applications for you today would make them all holding the license for all 6 locations.
So have they gone through an expanded investigation?
Yes, they have.
Okay, perfect. No, it was, you have a lot going on. I mean, that's a lot of change and at one time with that new build out. I'm sure that's taking up a lot of time. But I didn't have any other questions regarding the actual application. They were pretty straight. Happy to support them.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Silver?
Yeah, thank you. I watched the board meeting and I was very satisfied. I saw you've had 6 prior approvals and this is your 7th and you're looking forward to 8th. So no, I fully support your application.
Thank you. I think I heard not in a hurry to get to 8, but looking forward to it someday after you've had a chance to digest.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We actually last week was our 16th anniversary of our first location off St. Rose. So we've grown slowly, but it's been fun.
Could you describe Mr. Simon's role? I mean, he's been licensed in Nevada, I think, for 50 years. I mean, half a century. There are not many people who can say that. And we'll start with that.
Mr. Simon is our third of our partner. He's not as much day-to-day operations as my brother and I, but he's more of for guidance, just his experience with all different matters. We always reach out to him, but more just an outside partner that we look to for information.
And how often do you engage?
Daily. He's also a very good friend, and I consider him a second father. So yeah, we speak all the time.
Excellent.
My kids think he's his grandfather as well, so that's why we talk a lot.
There you go. All right, that was a piece I was missing.
Yeah.
I need that org chart.
Yeah.
Speaking of org charts, your brother, how you speak constantly, but could you describe how that works and the coverage of the portfolio? If that's the term.
I apologize to interrupt. Yeah, I chuckle. We're actually twins. So we're twin brothers. We're actually physical neighbors where we live. The addresses add up. We speak every day, a couple hours a day, if it's cumulative with phones or in person. And I believe the second part was how we speak in regards to managing. We divide each location. As of now, we have 6. So I look over 3 directly. He looks over 3 directly, and then we talk as far as what's going on in each location and so on. But we manage all 6 together. We just kind of divide them as brothers. We don't want to be too close because that tends to cause a.
And you're identical twins?
We're identical twins, yes, sir.
So how do we know it's you today?
I have a hard time telling Mr. Chairman.
And that's
I have to ask for ID.
I'm being playful, and that's not fair.
You don't, but you have to take my word for it. On the record, I have my ID if you like to.
We'll get you check them on the way out. That would be good. And how do you get the pleasure of being with us today and your brother escapes duty?
I have no idea. I don't know if it was one of our agent, but I was excited to do it. It's been a while. I believe the last meeting was during our expanded for Trails Village, I believe. So
So
I
we
look forward
did
to it.
we did request a waiver from Mr. Joseph Wickman. He had another engagement he was attending that conflicted with this, and he would have rearranged his schedule if required to be here. But we appreciate you waiving his appearance and Mr. Simon's appearance as well.
And it's our pleasure, but it would be fun to see you side by side. That's always
Well,
good.
Hopefully, we get to number 8 and you can call him and
You hold him to that.
I will.
I don't know where I'll be, but if you're there, you do it. All right. I don't have any additional questions, commissioners. If not, then the motion would be in order. And why don't we do it, Madam Secretary, you would appreciate a motion separately for each item, correct?
Yes.
All right. So let's first do restricted item number 3, motion.
I move for approval of restricted item number 3 is read into the record by Madam Secretary and is recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a question? Comment? None. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Motion's carried unanimously. Restricted item number 4.
I move for approval of restricted item number 4 is read into the record by Madam Secretary and is recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Questions on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Motion's carried.
And lastly, I move for approval of restricted item number 5 is read into the record by Madam Secretary and is recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Thank you. We have a motion. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? You got it. You got your trifecta.
Thank you. We appreciate Agent Partey's work on all 3 of these applications.
Excellent. Thank you, Agent Partey, and all the other folks involved. Good luck.
Thank you.
Secretary, please read in restricted item number 6.
Restricted number 6 is the application of United Coin Machine Company doing business as Century Gaming Technologies, doing business at 7-Eleven store number 41 for a restricted gaming license. It is also the application of 4 Santashi LLC for licensure to receive a percentage of gaming revenue from United Coin Machine Company doing business as Century Gaming Technologies, doing business at 7-Eleven store number 41998. You also have the application of Muktibin Patel for licensure as a member and manager. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Welcome back, Mr. Donato. Ms. Conine, always a pleasure to see you. It's a pleasure to meet you, Ms. Patel. Thank you for being with us today. Mr. Donato.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the Commission, Madam Secretary Jeff Donato, Enrolled Agent. With me today is Mrs. Debbie Cornine, which is the Director of Regulatory Compliance for CGT. She is here on behalf of CGT's application to hold the license for this location. And I'm here with Mrs. Patel, who is requesting to share in revenue under CGT's restricted gaming license. This is a new location that opened in September of 2023. Currently, there is no gaming at the location. If this application is approved today, Century Gaming would activate their license, put the machines in there, and Mrs. Patel would start sharing in gaming revenue. We did have a conversation on the record at the Gaming Control Board with regards to distance separations. We would ask that be incorporated into this hearing. And with that, we're here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Donato. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Donato on the application itself, and then we can meet Ms. Patel?
I just had a question as to what intersection at Martin Luther King was this particular 7-Eleven?
MLK and Alexander.
In Alexander.
Yeah, it's on the. It's adjacent. There's an existing convenience store on the adjacent corner, and they're on the other corner, the hard corner. And I don't know. You know the corner, the east side of Alexander.
Well, you triggered a trifecta of red flags with your application. You're next to 2 churches, 1 park playground, and 1 school. But I think there was an extensive record created at the Gaming Control Board. I think it's Reg 3.010 that we're concerned about. I'm just confirming, well, a couple things give us some flexibility here. One is that it's in a zone for commercial with North Las Vegas, so that is all good. We've continued since the Gaming Control Board meeting. There have been no letters or outreach or any concerns expressed by any of those neighbors. Is that correct?
I have not heard anything, Mr. Chairman.
I assume if the Gaming Control Board folks did, that we would know, and Senior Agent Jones. I also note for the record that there are two other establishments with restricted licenses that are even closer to this, three for red flags. So again, I think the record is very clear why we would be moving forward if that's what the pleasure is, given the specific circumstances of this application. Ms. Patel, would you like to add anything? You're here. We wish you success, but would you like to weigh in and on your application?
Yeah, coming from another country, living the American dream right now. So really excited. I do have another location previously that I do share revenue with. So just growing, I have two kids, 8 and 5. So working hard for them, setting up that dream for them.
And do we need to speak about the surveillance system? What's going on?
I believe there is a condition on the license, and that is perfectly acceptable with us, and we will make sure that we have it inspected by enforcement per the condition.
Perfect. Those are all my bullet points. I have nothing else. Commissioners, anything else? All right, then I think we're ripe for a motion.
I move for approval of restricted item number 6 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and is recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have any questions on that motion? I'm hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And any opposed? No. Motion's carried. Congratulations. Good on you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank Senior Agent Jones for all her hard work. I know she has her focus on a lot of other things with, close.
Did she deliver a baby yet?
I haven't heard. So
No.
I keep getting emails from her, and I told her
Not to
go
be
home.
personal, but yeah, it's
But we appreciate all her work on this application.
good. Thank you,
The
Mr.
latest word-
Donato.
Excuse me, the latest word I got on that yesterday was that she's going to be, I think, just working maybe 3 days a week. That they're
Why I didn't what
that she might be just working right now like 3 days a week, and they're just asking her to kind of hold on for a little bit. So
I'm glad you said that. I couldn't say that. So yeah, I told my wife to hang out for the weekend if she could. All good. But thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Good luck to you. And the surveillance system was incorporated by your reading, correct? We don't need to add any language. Madam Secretary, please read in our next item. Or is a court reporter fine? Are we still doing well? Yes. Okay. For you.
All right, next for your consideration, you have a stipulation for settlement and order settling the claim for refund of gross gaming tax for the periods of August 2021 through March 2020. Filed in the matter of Nevada Restaurant Services, Inc., doing business at various locations noted on the agenda, case number 24-01-RTR.
It's been so long. How are you, sir? Welcome.
I'm doing fine. Should I start? I'm not sure if
is Mr. I see
Deputy
Senior
AG
Deputy
Michaela
Attorney
wants to
General
start, or-
McKella on the phone. I'm hoping you are not suffering the same technology issues that others. Could you test it, Mr. Michaela?
Sure. Good afternoon. How is it so far?
Still not perfect, but it seems better than others. So thank you for speaking slowly and carefully for us, Mr. McKella. I'm not sure how this, I know we're here for an update. Is that for you to present or Mr. McKella?
I can go first, certainly.
Right, please.
Good afternoon, Chair Kulicki, Commissioners, Madam Secretary, members of the board in attendance. For the record, my name is Cannon Smith, and I'm General Counsel for Nevada Restaurant Services, Inc. NSI would like to thank the board and the AG's office for working with them on this matter. To give you an update, we're in the process of finalizing a stipulation for settlement with the board, and pursuant to the commission's directive on the record in August, NRSI will be waiving all interest in their request for a refund.
Could you say that again? That's not what I was expecting to hear. I want to hear that again.
NRSI will be waiving all interest in its claim for refund and only seeking the principal pursuant to the commission's directive last month.
That is a splendid opening statement. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you certainly for the Dottie's folks on that. Senior Deputy Attorney General McKellar, do you have anything to add? And I see Chief on there too. Anything to put in here? And when do we expect this to get wrapped up?
Thank you, Commissioner Krolicki. Good afternoon, members of the Commission, Madam Secretary, members of the board. I am John McKellar with the Attorney General's Office. You heard from Cannon Smith, General Counsel for NRSI already today. And given the audio quality, I'm going to give you the short version of my presentation rather than everything I've prepared.
We're actually hearing you well. So, I mean, it's garbled a little bit. We're hearing you. So take your time.
Okay. I have a quick update for you today on the NRSI claim for refund in which you considered settlement during your August meeting. As stated, this update is provided as discussions from last month indicated that a new settlement might be presented to you today. My office and the board's tax and license, audit, and technology divisions have examined the law surrounding the claims for refund and interest on refunds. Based on this examination, it appears that the base claim amount is sustainable and a valid claim for interest could be submitted. We are presently in negotiations with NRSI to waive the interest on this claim and potentially confirm the base refund amount. If we reach an agreement, the stipulation thereon should be ready for your October agenda. And additionally, to what Mr. Smith stated, I also note that NRSI has filed a second claim for refund related to cashable electronic promotion amounts preceding the current claim for refund period and to the extent of the 5-year limitations period. The board will examine this claim to determine whether it is appropriate to pay. This examination will, of course, include financial, legal, equitable, and record reliability issues. Thank you.
I think I got confused at the end there. And, I heard that NRSI was waiving the interest. I think there was in my mind, there was a period. Are you saying there will be a second stipulation with a different interest matter or, the other interest, or is this done and we just need to do the paperwork or is there another matter arising from this?
That's a two-part answer, Commissioner Krolicki. With regard to the current claim for refund before you today, we are almost all the way around the track. We need to confirm that all board members are agreeable to the no interest stipulation with the base amount that is confirmed. And then the second answer to your question is NRSI on the 23rd filed a new claim for refund that is related to the period prior to the claim for refund before you today and goes back to the extent of the 5-year limitations period that is set out in statute. And the board would be examining that both for the base amount and potentially the interest amount as well. And if the parties can agree on a number and on the interest, then that would be presented to you potentially in a new settlement. If they cannot, the potential is that one would go to a hearing.
Thank you, sir.
I can say for the record that in both claims for refund, NRSI will not be seeking any interest. They'll only be seeking to be refunded the principal amount of tax that was overpaid.
Mr. Kennett, could you explain the timing? I thought the current claim for refund went back to when the legislature changed, whenever the provision was changed. I don't know, recall if it was ours or the legislature.
So just to kind of clarify the record, and I think hopefully Attorney General McKellar was on the same page as me, but the August 2021 date was related to a report in the Konami gaming system that was approved for that version. And so that's why the original request went back to that date. But in looking at the matter again and speaking with Konami, NRSI believes that the data is there to show the CEP wagered before. Konami has stated that their report is accurate going back to all prior versions. And so the company has made a claim for refund to go back the entire 5 years instead of just back to when that version was approved. I think that just to make the record, I'd like to say that there are millions of dollars that NRSI overpaid in taxes that are outside of this 5-year limitation that NRSI cannot make a claim for refund for. And so NRSI is just pursuant to the statute making a claim for the full 5 years.
But what was the date of the statute change that allowed you to take that deduction?
I don't know the date of the statute change, but I believe that the statute, I believe, was I guess I don't know, Commissioner, the date of that statute change, but I believe that section has been in that statute for a long time in terms of cashable promotion being excluded from gross revenue. I don't think that was a new addition to that statute. Okay. It was just NRSI wasn't able to, in their system, in the Konami approved system, prove what those amounts were until they had that report.
Till August of 2021. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought something else had changed in the statute, and I didn't understand what it was.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I confused you.
Okay. So you're going back from August 2021 till just what would be the 5-year statute of limitations?
It's back to September 23rd, 2019.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So you're going back an additional 2 years or something?
A little less than that, I think.
Do we know how much we're talking about?
Based on talking with the accounting department, it's approximately $1.8 million of overpaid taxes in that time period.
You know, it's yeah, thank you, and thank you to NSRI. You know, the issues that arose at the last meeting was just about, you know, fairness. I understand statute and law, and you know we got to do what it says, but there was just something inherently uncomfortable about some of the parts, and that's not you know, to denigrate any of the legal. I mean, everyone's been doing their job hard. It was just you know, I think our role as a commission is to look at things a little bit differently. You know, we don't do this every day. We come in and, you know, and it just didn't sit right, at least with me. And as a guy who was treasurer in that office, responsible for investing, you know, these kind of funds in the general portfolio for 16 years, I know that, you know, we're not more than a year, 500 days on the yield curve, and this, I'll call it arbitrage between the two. You know, if the onus and the failure to recognize a problem, and it was recognized by the Gaming Control Board, I believe, but to create such a unfairness to the Nevada taxpayers in this, it just, again, I appreciate that you heard that, and I think the mothership has heard it. But you know, monies that are due you know, fine. You know, that was an interest that I think was the only problem. And if you're on record for your client that interest is waived for not only, well, when it's negotiated and the Gaming Control Board needs to sign off, the the interest for the last 3 years and whatever interest is attached to the previous part will be waived. So
Yes.
you're just getting your rightful money principal.
Yes, my client heard what the commission said in August and is only seeking the principal for those reasons.
It's nice when, you get a room with not a lot of people. You don't know who's, out there on the internet, but I'm glad some people watch us. But that was, it's an important gesture. Again, this is about fairness, and I appreciate that law is perhaps on the side of others in this, but that makes that gesture in this commissioner's mind that much more graceful and important. Any other comments from?
Just a brief one. Mr. Cannon, you referred to twice, referred to the fact that, you were going to be waiving interest as in response to the directive by the commission.
Yes.
And I speak only to myself, only for myself. I didn't perceive that as a directive. I certainly, it was a strong message based on my read of the statute that you delayed so long in seeking this and making this happen that I felt you weren't entitled to interest, but you certainly were entitled to argue otherwise. And I just didn't want it to be perceived, at least from me, as a directive. You certainly are, free to make your point, but I think we made our point.
Yeah. I think that I guess we could all interpret the transcript differently. I think that my interpretation was pretty clear what the commission wanted, and so that's how I counsel my client.
Okay, thank you.
And again, it's about being fair. And I think I was prepared to be a bit grumpy today because we didn't, and Senior Deputy Attorney General McKellar, you were right. I was expecting to see finality to this issue today because we're paying interest every day. It's not resolved. But now that you tell us that interest is not accruing while this is being finalized and negotiated, I'm not grumpy. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and that was just for information purposes, so there's no action for the commission to take today. So we just are cheerleaders, wishing you well, appreciating your client's approach to this. Again, we just want what's fair.
Yeah.
We know there are laws out there, but we look forward to seeing the document that comes back to us after our friends of the Gaming Control Board are comfortable. All right?
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your help. Is there anything anyone would like to add to that? I'm looking at our Gaming Control Board colleagues. No. All right. And the court reporter is still fine?
Yes.
All right. So, Madam Secretary, please read in our next item.
Next for your consideration is one gaming employee registration appeal. That item is Michael De Guzman, case number 23LV00388.
Thank you. And I believe Mr. De Guzman is with us. And do we have Jamie Tan from the Gaming Control Board? There you are. Thank you, Jamie, for coming. She'll be serving as the Tagalog interpreter as necessary. Welcome, Mr. De Guzman. So I won't do this as well as our chair who makes a career out of explaining these kind of procedures, but I'll do my best. So we are, and how would you like, do you want me to do this in pieces? Okay, so we'll start with that.
Oh, so explain daw niya sa'yo kung ano yung nangyari. Tapos, antayin ko yung sinabi niya.
And you don't need to respond yet, just
May gusto kang sabihin? Oh.
Mr. De Guzman, I'm just going to finish what I'm going to say, and then we can proceed.
Ita-translate ko sa iyo. Okay.
So,
Yeah, please proceed.
Okay, so my comments that, for this hearing is we have a very extensive record of your testimony and documents related to your case.
possible. So
And it's quite an extensive record. It was very challenging to go through some of the hearing officers, your time with the hearing officer.
mahirap daw i-review yung yun. Patapusin natin sila. Kasi konti-konti sinasabi niya para madali akong i-translate sa'yo.
But our job today is we have the information. We call it the four corners. We have to make a decision today based on the information that we currently have.
Decision sa'yo today. Sa araw na to.
So we're not taking additional, new evidence or new information. Our decision will be based on, again, what is in our possession today.
Dun sila gagawa ng decision. Okay.
So you are welcome to make a comment as we begin our deliberation on this matter.
So, ibang komento. Meron kang sabihin, ito na yung chance mo pa.
But you certainly
He said he made a statement, a written statement, if he can read it on record.
So, yeah, as long, again, we don't need a redundant statement, based on, but if you would like to say a few words, that's fine. And we may have questions for you.
Mahabang statement. Gusto niya maiksi lang.
Pwede ba ito? Iksi ako. Yan lang.
Sige, basahin mo.
All right. I would like to thank you all for the opportunity to address the board with the hopeful intention of being reinstated. It has been 6 or 7 months since we last met. Since that time, I have changed jobs. I am now working at the Stratosphere, not in the gaming department. I work the rides, there's on top. Also, my little daughter, Michaela, is now almost turning 2 years old. Walking and talking, they grow up so fast. I am the only parent. Sometimes it's difficult, but I live with my cousin and his wife, and they help out with babysitting when I work. They are blessings. I come before you today to tell you that I sincerely regret the mistakes I made in the past that caused me to lose my opportunity to work in the gaming industry. I really regret my responsibility at that time, and I wanted to apologize for what I've done wrong. I promise to be more responsible person in the future. If you will please grant me a second opportunity, I would like nothing better than to get another chance to get my gaming license and return to work in the gaming industry. I promise to work hard every day with the hope of building a better life for me and my daughter. Thank you all very much.
And thank you, Mr. de Guzman. I know this is not an easy exercise. I know it's uncomfortable, unpleasant, but we really do appreciate you being here And for now, thank you for your statement. And if we have questions, we'll ask you some questions. And I actually do have an initial question. You stated in your opening comments that you were a single father. The record we have talks about your wife, or are you no longer with your wife?
Hindi na siya sa akin. Hindi na siya involved.
So hiwalay na kayo?
Hiwalay.
They're separated.
Okay, thank you. All right, so stand by. Commissioners, Commissioner Silver.
Yeah, I had a question. I had read in here that you thought that your prior employer might not have like pulled back on the check. I was just trying to figure out how the check got cashed twice. I couldn't figure that out.
Bakit yung check in cash?
Like, I just couldn't, that wasn't really clear.
Kasi natin sa akin that bago ako nagpunta ako sa Palace, then na-cash out ko yung unang check.
Okay, sandali ako.
He went to Palace Station to cash the first check.
Tapos yung pangalawa nga, yung papa-cash out ko, hindi na kinash out dahil sabi nga, may bad checks, may bounce.
And then when he, and then the second check, when he came back, they said it was a bad check and he can't cash it anymore.
Yeah.
Tapos gusto nila bayaran ko muna yung first check.
And then and they also mentioned to him that he also needs to pay for the first check that was not cashed.
And where did you get this check from? Who gave you this check? Like, was it from work? I don't understand where the check came from.
Paychecks, trabaho, Bali.
It was a paycheck from Bally's.
That's what I had read. Sorry, I read this like a week ago. And when was it Bally? Like, where did it get paid on the first round? Did your wife or somebody like take a photo deposit? Like, how did it get deposited where you could, obviously you didn't send it into a bank. I was thinking maybe it was a mobile deposit from your phone because it doesn't touch the check or anything. And then you went to Palace Station. That's what I was thinking. That makes sense.
So, the live check. Then nagpunta ako sa
Anong sabihin ng live check?
paper check.
A paper check, So pumunta ka saan?
Sa Palace Station.
Yung unang beses?
I think couple times na yun.
Couldn't
Then
find
that
his
time,
statement.
talaga ako dyan. And that time,
I know, but yung first check, saan mo kinash? Sa internet?
Pareho, no. So, yun yung nangyari. So, sabi ng asawa ko, yung daw check na yun, sa mobile app, inano ko na, dineposit ko na.
The first check was mobilely deposited.
That's what I thought. Okay. That makes sense because if you do a mobile deposit, it's not like a bank stamps it or anything like that. You just have it. Who did that? Was that your wife did the mobile deposit and then you didn't know and you went to stations?
Asawa mo ba yun?
Asawa ko, dati yung magkasama kami pa. Then sabi niya,
It was his former wife.
Okay, that makes sense. And then, okay, so now I'm just going to make a comment. But I mean, the bad check unit of the district attorney's office was put into place when I was there. And it's really just to afford businesses the opportunity to recover money. It was never set up by Stuart Bell. my prior boss, to just give people misdemeanors and criminal records. It was really just to help businesses with a hammer of criminal consequences, to get the money back, which is what happened here. It's very common in these bad check cases. We have a million of them when I was either a judge or a DA. And basically, as long as they pay back the money, which he did, it gets dismissed. And that is routine in all bad check cases, which is what happened here. My only comment I would say is it's been 2 years. The guy was working 2 jobs, has language barriers, and looks like he didn't, call back fair quick enough. He should have. But I'm just wondering, since it's been 2 years, June 17th of 2022, he was arrested on this. That's over 2 years. He was even arrested on this. He paid it back. Is there something besides objecting to it that, that this, I guess I'm asking the AG now, besides objecting, because I personally think it's enough punishment. I mean, the guy wants to work, and this is not the crime. It's not even, I mean, technically it is, but that wasn't the whole reason behind instituting a bad check unit with the DA's office. Is objecting to it the only way to allow him to go and get licensed again? Or is there some other motion I would be able to make? Because I'm going to make a motion to.
You can overturn.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree necessarily with what went down with the hearing master and their findings, but I just think, having been a judge, that if this is an individual that wants to work for his family, that if I make a motion to overturn it and overrule it, then he's able, after 2 years of being arrested on something that he did pay back, and there appears to be language, like I said, difficulties. And most people, they don't think that they have to put it down if it's been dismissed. I mean, they go through a whole rigmarole in justice court, having been a justice of the peace, that, this is all done, you pay it back, you're all good, it's dismissed. So I understand why somebody would think that maybe, especially somebody from another country, maybe why they didn't have to put it on their application. I'm just, I'm ready to make that motion on behalf of everyone. If that's the only way, if there's only 2 modifications are more for conditions, is that right?
You can overturn, and then you can limit it or condition it if you think that needs some type of restrictions or parameters around the
I don't.
overturning and granting
I mean,
of the
I don't see any
application.
restrictions personally, but I'd like to, and then. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we.
Oh, sorry.
We haven't had a.
I'm
chance
sorry.
To speak yet. So
I'm a newbie, sorry.
No, that's
Sorry
fine.
about that.
Thank you for your input, Commissioner.
Mr. de Guzman, thank you for being here. I appreciate the explanation you gave today as far as how the check got cashed twice. But this is the first time we've received that clarity. It wasn't presented at the hearing.
Actually, I think it was.
I didn't see it.
It was, I couldn't.
The Bally's. Okay, maybe I'm getting it wrong.
The record remained unclear to me how the check got redeposited. And this makes sense, but that wasn't part of the record.
That I got it wrong. Sorry, I read this like a week ago.
Mr. de Guzman said that he did mention it during the hearing.
When I saw it, it wasn't clear. It seemed to, he seemed to be claiming that he didn't know how it happened.
Okay, let me clarify that. He said that after the hearing, that's when his ex-wife told him about the mobile deposit.
It says it right there. It's on the transcript. It's on page 46.
She told him that about the mobile deposit after the transfer?
Yes, that's what he said.
And that's page 47.
He received a letter from the bad check unit advising him that he needed to pay for the check, or they would issue an arrest warrant. Why did he ignore it?
Actually, they just issued the warrant. They don't call them
Said that a letter was sent. It's in Exhibit 1.
a letter, like a
Yes.
demand.
They sent him a letter. And I believe in the
He
hearing,
received it. It's just he didn't took action on it right away.
I believe during the hearing, he said he didn't think he did anything wrong, so he ignored it.
Tama ba? Oo. Isipin mo mabuti. Oo nga, bakit?
He said that he ignored the letter because he didn't have the money to pay for it.
Okay. Did the Palace Station also try to reach out to him?
He said just the letter.
Right, that came from the district attorney's office.
Yes.
But I understand the Palace Station also tried to obtain restitution.
Tinatanong niya kung yung Palace Station, tinawagan ka ba? Sigurado ka?
He said that Palace Station did not contact him.
Okay. All right. And as I understand it, he didn't list the arrest. Is it because he didn't understand the word arrest? Because the application clearly asks not just for convictions, but also for arrests.
Hindi ka na-arrest. Naiintindihan mo ba yung arrest?
Yun lang i-disclose ko yung
Oo,
yun ang hindi ko nagawa.
Oo nga, bakit hindi mo ba naintindihan yung ibig sabihin ng aresto?
No, alam ko yun.
Pero
Ano ba yung
yung application form na sinabit mo.
No, yung pinapa-disclose ba nila yan, hindi.
Oo, nandun sa application form, tinatanong kung na-aresto ka ba o hindi. Bakit hindi mo sinulat doon na na-aresto ka?
He cannot remember the application form.
Okay.
Sir, could you please introduce yourself
I'm
for the
sorry,
record
sir.
if you're going?
This isn't, I'm Mike Malone. I'm his uncle.
Right.
Okay, and I was also at that hearing. He told me initially, when all of this started, one of the reasons the whole purpose of the case was because when he filled out that gaming license, he put no to the arrest because he thought that he paid the fine that made it good. So he wasn't arrested, just as you stated. That was exactly what had happened.
Right. And Mr. Malone, I'm
sorry.
I'm accommodating because you are part of the record. You were
Right.
you were in the hearing,
you.
and those comments I believe are echoed in the hearing officer's comments. So I'm gonna,
Yeah, I just
you know,
don't think that he's grasping everything that, that you're saying. It, even on with the check, we still didn't really understand what happened with it. It had something to do with it being mobile deposited. Then they closed down the account because they were getting a lot of, well, what do you call it? The extra when you withdraw too much money out, and so you wind up having to pay fines by the bank fees. And that's what's happened. They closed the account down, and it was all simultaneous right at that time. When we tried to go back and get bank records, we just really couldn't come up with it. And that's kind of what happened. Was we went to the hearing, we really couldn't provide any information documented.
And Mr. Malone, I so appreciate your presence and what we're trying to do, but we have a process.
There was no intent of a crime. I mean,
I understand.
yeah,
And that is that's very clear in the written record that we have.
Thank you.
Right.
He has something to say. Hold on. He said when he came out of the jail, he thought that everything is fine, and so he didn't do anything after.
Does he understand that the fact that he went to jail means he got arrested?
Yes, he did understand it, that it was because of the bounce check.
Okay, I just want to make sure he understands that even if even if they hadn't dismissed it because he paid, even if they found out they had the wrong person, the arrest still happens.
Yeah, he said that he did not understand that. He thought that once he paid the restitution that he is okay. That's why he did not put it on the paperwork.
Okay. I just obviously, he didn't get convicted, but he was arrested, and that's an important distinction for future reference.
Yes, he does understand now.
Okay. I am not inclined to support his application because of his lack of attention to the efforts to have him make restitution timely and avoid an arrest.
Okay.
In addition to the fact that he was not responsive to the gaming agent, and I realize he worked 2 jobs, but that is a very important thing that you respond to if you're trying to get reinstated.
Okay.
Okay. I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Mr. de Guzman, none of this is easy, and we're trying to make the best decision that we can. And when I make a decision, I have to think about not just you, but other people in similar situations. And I can see now more easily how this could have happened as an innocent mistake. But as Commissioner Solis Rainey indicated, how you responded afterwards was, was not helpful.
Commissioner Solis really na hindi ka sumagot agad sa tawag ng gaming control. Importante yun. Naiintindihan mo?
I can't, I understand the language issue is very significant here. And I now realize perhaps even more that your marriage situation perhaps caused this original incident to happen.
Sa ex-wife mo?
But to not respond to the Gaming Control Board, to file an original application that was incorrect for other people, we have denied them in hearing.
Sa gaming control agent at saka hindi tama yung pag-fill out mo ng application. But basically, sinasabi niya, nagsinungaling ka din sa application. Kaya ito gagawa sa decision niya.
But those items cannot be an excuse for what happened. It appears that you have a very supportive family. I totally get you're raising a young daughter, but we have to not bend rules out of emotions.
Pero hindi na pwede bastang ibahin ang regulasyon. Kailangan pa sunduin niya yung regulasyon.
And I, as a commissioner, want to respect the work that's been done by the Gaming Control Board staff. They've all worked very hard to try to get answers and to identify this. So I, with all due respect to Commissioner Silver, I think I'm leaning with Commissioner Solis Rainey. Again, this is very difficult. I hope family and other support is there. I believe this will not happen again, but it's been a short time. 2 years is not for these kind of things that long, but you're allowed to come back, I believe, in 1 year. And I really hope you do. But I think, I want to support the process. And so if there were a motion to sustain this decision, I will be supporting that.
Based din sa mga ginawa na research ng gaming control, uma-agree siya sa kung anong sinabi ni Commissioner Solis Rainey kanina. So sabi niya, pwede ka daw bumalik after 1 year.
We're ready for a motion.
Can I say one more comment before you motion? I just have a comment based on yours.
Mag-apply gaming employee registration.
He is asking when he can apply for a gaming employee registration again.
And I'm
So
glad you're asking that question. I believe it's 1 year, 1 year from today. Commissioner Silver has additional comments.
the only additional comment I have is just in response to what Chair Krilicki just said. I just want to say I do have the utmost respect for the hearing masters and all the investigators and the work they do. But perhaps because of my 20 years of being a judge and seeing cases, each one very different from another, that I look at each instance so differently and each circumstance so differently. And my view of it was just that, I guess, because I have a background in what goes on with the bad check unit and then the court system and how that works. I just felt like by the time this gets to us, he hasn't worked now in over 2 years. So it had nothing to do. And I just want to make a record of that because I know that there's so much hard work put into it by the board and by the hearing master. And then we come in but it's like almost a year later. And so my thought process, just so I have it on the record, was why wait one more year for him to want to work for his 2-year-old child, to be a parent. And at the time he was working 2 jobs, an immigrant. So that to me, I was going to give him grace on leniency, based on my experience. And it's only with timing, but it had nothing to do with the findings or anything that anyone did below. And that's all I wanted to say on the record.
And I absolutely approve.
Well, and this
Commissioner
is,
Silver's ready.
I was just going to point out, Commissioner Silver, the objection wasn't raised until June of 2023. So it's been just a little over a year. The dismissal of
They
the charge.
but don't they take it? I mean, isn't he out from the time of his arrest?
No, it's
He
only
gets
because they objected in 2023. So he was working until 2023 when they raised the objection.
So maybe I just don't
And
know.
the objection was due to his failure to report.
No,
Had he reported it with a dismissal, I'd have no issues with it.
I'm not fighting with you at all on your view. I'm just telling you mine.
No, I understand.
So
I didn't know if you knew that the work issue was 2023, because you said he hadn't worked for 2 years.
Oh, I thought, well, not work, but I thought working in gaming, that once he's arrested on this, that the board finds out about it. No, and then.
No, it's not.
Maybe that's from our last one. Sorry. I think our last hearing, they knew about the arrest. And in fact, the investigator kept calling him about the disposition. So I guess I just assumed that. And I'll have to go into that,
of course,
more with you guys on that. But I took it from the last case where the investigators kept calling him and calling him and calling him and finding out, hey, when is it over? So I just assume they get notified when they have a gaming like that. So thank you for that clarification.
No.
Thank you, commissioners. Again, I have great sympathy for you in the situation. But a gaming registration for an employee in the gaming industry is a very special privilege. And we cannot have people who have a gaming registration not be responsive to provide false information, on the application itself. Those kind of actions and language, with all due respect, can't be an excuse. Must be addressed, and the proper remedies need to be in place. So again, I will entertain a motion, but if the motion is to sustain the officer's recommendation to not grant you this today, I hope to see you in a year.
I just have one more question, just to make sure that the record is clear for the applicant. Is that okay? When he cashed the check at Palace Station, the first check that was cashed twice, I understand that happened in November, I believe, October, November. He found out when he went back to cash another check, they told him they would not cash a check because his prior one had bounced until he made good on that.
Yung pangalawang deposit mo nung pumunta ka sa College Parkway, anong sinabi nila?
Yung una sabi, wala, binayaran ako. So, binigay yung pera. Then yung pangalawa, dun sila may sinabi. Yung kailangan ko bayaran yung unang pinapalit.
He said that the first time that he went to Palace Station to cash the check, they gave him the money. And then the second time he went to cash
a different check.
Yet he said that he needed to pay the first check first.
Okay, that's what I had in mind when I was asking him about Palace Station requesting to be reimbursed.
Tatanong sa'yo para paano mo sila i-reimburse, paano mo ibabalik yung pera sa kanila.
So, pala?
So, tinatanong mo kung ano yung sinabi mo, nung sinabi sa'yo na kailangan bayaran yung utang.
Wala, hindi na ako kaya
Ano ginawa mo?
Hindi ko na pinapalit yung check.
So, umalis ka na lang?
Oo.
Hindi ka inaresto doon?
Hindi.
He said after the third, basically the second check, Palace Station told him that he needed to pay the prior money first before he can cash this one. He just walked out of the casino.
Understand. I guess the point I was trying to make is that I felt that Palace Station gave him an opportunity, let him know that the first check had bounced and gave him an opportunity to reimburse. Then the check unit sent him a letter letting him know the check had bounced and gave him an opportunity to make restitution. He ignored both of those. And then when the agent called him a year later in 2020, well, 2 years later in 2023, he didn't promptly get back to them. So that's the reason that I generally, as a member of a family that also immigrated, I'm very, I'm soft-hearted when it comes to honest mistakes. This didn't seem to be that. Even the portion that in the record where he knew the check had been deposited by phone, but because the money wasn't in the bank due to other fees coming out, then he knew it had been deposited, but yet he went and cashed it. So it wasn't an innocent mistake in my mind.
Pinipinay niya yung appeal mo kasi yung una, sinabi na sa ng Palace Station, kailangan bayaran yung utang mo, pero hindi mo pinayaran. Pangalawa, pinadalhan ka ng sulat ng gobyerno na kailangan bayaran mo yung cheque, hindi mo binayaran, in-ignore mo. Tapos pangatlo, tinawagan ka ng Gaming Control Board agent, hindi mo sinagot yung mga tawag niya. Sa tingin niya, yung Commissioner Sonsay, hindi mo ginawa yung trabaho mo na hindi ka sumagot na kahit kanina doon. Like, hindi mo sinunod yung law.
Right.
Okay.
I think all the commissioners have had a chance to express their views and provide some background as to how they've come to those views. So I think we've spent considerable time on this important matter. And again, Mr. De Guzman, I'm really appreciative that you're here. And I'm ready to entertain a motion from one of my commissioners.
I move to sustain the objection to Mr. De Guzman's objection.
Right. And he would have the opportunity to come, it's automatic.
It's a year from today.
All right. So we have a motion. Do we have comments or questions on the motion? All right, we have it. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
So we have two to sustain the motion to deny, one objecting, but the motion passes. And Mr. Guzman, we hope to see you again soon, right? Good luck, work hard. And you have a job at Stratosphere. I know it's not on the gaming floor, but just work hard and we'll take note of that, or those who follow likely will. I can't speak for a future commission. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Next on our agenda are the administrative reports. Chair Hendrick. Always a great pleasure to see you, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Krulicki, and good afternoon to you and the commissioners. For next month's Gaming Control Board meeting, we are planning for a one-day meeting on Wednesday, October 9th. That meeting will be held at the Legislative Building in Las Vegas, which is where we had our meeting in September. We're anticipating 7 non-restricted items at 9 a.m. and 13 restricted items at 11 a.m., as well as expecting a patron dispute and some regulatory revision considerations. And as you did, Mr. Chair, I also want to thank the Contractors Board for allowing us to use their hearing room today on behalf of everybody at the Gaming Control Board. We certainly appreciate it. And that's our report for this month. Thank you,
sir. Judge Assad, anything to get in there? You're good.
Just to say that you did a splendid job. Not as good as Jennifer Tagliati, but you did a very good job.
I can't beat her honor on this. It's my muscle memory with the gap. It's, I've chaired a lot of meetings, but never the gaming commission, but I appreciate that. Thank you for making it easy. Attorney General's office.
Nothing today. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
All right. Anyone else, commissioners? I'm seeing none. Madam Secretary, let's close our meeting with the last agenda item, public comment.
This item is placed on the agenda to give the public an opportunity to comment on gaming related matters.
Thank you. Let's start up north in Carson City. I see somebody on the back wall, but no one coming up. But anyone wishing to express public comment in Carson City, now's your time to do so. I'm seeing none. Public comment here in Las Vegas. I am seeing none. So we will close our public comment section, and this will conclude the commission meeting for the month of September. We're adjourned.